Quickly into space, Concepcion, blockers in front, and here he goes. KC says TD.
This is 365 Sports.
Final 30 seconds of the quarter, second down throw to the end zone. Douglas. Touchdown, Texas Tech. What a drive.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Sorsby the keep with a cut. Broken ankles. See ya.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Another first down for Vandy. Pressure off the edge. He steps up, and now he's going to run for the end zone and score. Diego Pavia.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Brown takes another shot. Wide open Koger. Touchdown, South Florida. 63 yards.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Monday. And you know what's going to be nice is that there's going to be discussion about the college football playoff, but we now know who the 12 teams are and not so much the angst of how can this happen or that. But yeah, there are arguments and there is some chaos. And even with bowl games, a lot to get to, some coaching staff situation. Baylor introducing a new AD later today. But Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. We're back in studio, and we will look back at the Big 12 weekend at AT&T Stadium and even hear a little bit from Joey McGuire. It just depends. Dave Bartu kept telling us he'll join us today at 4:30 to kind of put a bow on everything. And I think that Alabama being involved surprised him along with other people, but we'll get to that and more. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, we have the field set. Before we get to the bracket, we have the field set. But as popular as college football is right now, it is amazing because they still seem like they want to blow it all up at times.
Well, I mean, look, you've got one team that's not in that's decided, and look, it's probably the absolute wrong team given all their other built-in advantages in Notre Dame to piss off. Because if somebody can really go scorched earth and not have to worry about, well, what about the other teams in my conference? What about this? What about that? No, I mean, you're a major independent when it comes to that. So there are a lot of things that need to be changed about college football, but also just like many things. I mean, like a lot of this reminded me of like the first wave of Big 12 realignment where everybody got mad at like A&M and Missouri, which is justified in a certain degree, but they weren't mad enough at Texas for the Longhorn Network. Like Notre Dame is mad at the ACC because the ACC campaigned for Miami. They're mad at all these other things. I've never once heard them say anything about Alabama. So it's like they've erupted in this controversy, but that's how it goes.
We're going to take a look at Notre Dame and all of what happened in just a minute, but we have our 12 team feel. It may not be perfect. It's not perfect, but it's based on the rules the committee was given.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to kind of get to there at the start is just kind of our general feelings about everything. And I'd say that, first of all, it's great to be back and actually feel like I can talk for 5 seconds without coughing my throat and my lungs out of my chest here. But what's up, the chat? Hope you guys are doing well and everybody else watching out there. My general thing before we jump in here is not getting into the Miami and Notre Dame and Alabama aspect of all this, which we will, and not getting into the who didn't make it, which we will, and who did make it, which we will. My whole thing is my thing from last year, my thing from 2 years ago. I think it really sucks for this sport that this is how the big unveiling of your postseason is reacted to. I think this is the worst postseason in American sports, and it's as close to a pro sport as it can be without being that right now. It wants to be a pro sport, but it doesn't want to do the things that it takes to be a pro sport. And as a result, it just leaves this messy-ass postseason that no one can all get on board with or all agree upon. And it's really unfortunate that what I still believe is a great and very entertaining and dramatic regular season that isn't the way it was in 1994, where if you lost a game in week 3, your season's basically over. It's not that, and I didn't always enjoy that, quite frankly. I also don't necessarily want to see 5 win or 5 loss teams in the college football playoff either. So I'm in the middle there on that. But I'm not resistant to change. And so I've been open-minded about all of this, but I've walked away like 3 years in a row now going, this sport is freaking awesome. And the postseason absolutely sucks. The postseason sucks. And the fact that this big unveiling yesterday morning should be the most exciting thing that happens. Like, everybody should be going, oh my God, can you believe so-and-so's playing so-and-so and so-and-so? And like and then they got to play this. And some are doing that. And we'll get to some of doing that. But really 99.99999% of the discussion has all been angst and anger and calling it BS and wanting it torn down. And like, how many years are we going to do this where we just have this system where everybody hates it, nobody can agree on how to fix it because there's too many self-interest, and it ultimately results in just the ugliest cherry on top of what is still a very delicious sundae. But like the topping on it, the final touch to it, which should be awesome, is not awesome. And instead of it being a day where you're like, here's the playoff system and everybody gets to celebrate, everybody's just fighting each other. It just sucks.
And because of that, every year, because there's more about who didn't make it or how come somebody did make it, college football continues to try to change it and never let it rest and continue and give it some time. And I get that you're trying to, can we tweak it? They won't let this thing just happen. Be home games, first 2 rounds rather than the first round. College football chasing its tail because that's what they do, but yet they have the highest ratings in the history of the sport, but people aren't happy because of how this is put together. And then the playoff committee, of course, just, do you need it? Should we go back to computers? I don't know the answer, but you're right. For what should be the greatest playoff ever is one that we just bitch and moan about it before it even starts.
I think that there needs to be some sort of meeting of the rankings plus the committee, which is what we have now, but most people don't realize that we do and are confused by the entire process, because when the spokesman for the committee comes out and you ask him about one thing and then you've asked him it applies to another team with the same exact circumstance, he gives different answers. So there's not a lot of transparency when it comes to all of this. And to me, I think the biggest fundamental question has to be, do conference championship games, before we even get into Notre Dame, do conference championship games count the same for everybody? Are there stakes on them, given like the similar things? Because there were stakes for BYU, but there weren't stakes for Alabama. And that's really confusing to the general populace who doesn't follow those two teams at all.
And it leads to people wondering about whether this thing is set up even before it even starts.
Yeah, I still love the regular season, and I think that this whole missing piece now is this playoff piece that you just can't seem to agree upon or get right. And I was somebody who still advocated for there being some human element, but the humans are the morons in this equation. Like, yeah, I mean, there's so many things to go that people have already espoused upon for like 2 days now about, well, this is how we should do it, and there's no committee, and like I know we'll get into all of that, but yeah, I am totally anti-committee at this point. I think that they do so much more damage in trying to explain their actions than if we just had the BCS computer, which yes got very boring. But we haven't done it with 12 teams. We haven't done it with 14 or 16 teams. We did it with 2, and it was really annoying when it was just the 2. And then you had, eventually the expansion to 4 and all of that. But yeah, the College Football Playoff Committee, every year there's something shady about it. And every year there's some self-interest that you can find and go, is that why Alabama's there? You know why Alabama's there this year? Because they weren't there last year. So they weren't going to do that 2 years in a row, right? Like there's too much of that baked into this thing where there's politics involved where there shouldn't be, but there always will be because it's college sports. And there's too many people who are tweaking it as they go and making it up as they go along to fit what they ultimately want it to be, rather than it just being straightforward. And like, you'll still have people that get upset, but at least they know, like, okay, clearly this is why we missed out on it, rather than this bozo getting up there and saying one thing about this team, but then totally ignoring it with this other team. And it's like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, the problem, it doesn't make any sense. That's the problem. It doesn't ever make any sense.
Well, here's one thing that Dan Wetzel set this out when he said, having 2 teams outside the top 12 with Tulane and James Madison is an ACC tiebreaker screw up, as would the league being left out altogether. It's not a playoff format problem. The playoff format, the way it was written, worked. But the ACC created a little bit more of a mess because of their own tiebreaker rules, but everyone wants to blame the committee. Now, let's get to the bracket, and we're going to get into Notre Dame and much more. Here's the bracket. Opening round games: Eugene, Oregon will host James Madison. Alabama, again, will play Oklahoma, who's beaten them the last 2 times since they joined the conference. Tulane and Ole Miss, and Miami will play A&M. Those are the opening round games. And then, of course, you move into the next round with the 4 teams: Texas Tech, Indiana, what a win against Ohio State, Georgia, and Ohio State. They wait for the winners.
Yeah, by the way, 2 rematches here. Tulane and Ole Miss played earlier in the year, and Ole Miss won by 5 touchdowns. But, yeah, there are – and look, this stands to put some really interesting matchups there. I'm personally rooting for an A&M Texas Tech national championship game because that would be wild. And that's the only way it could happen. I was kind of hoping for them to play each other in the Cotton Bowl because I thought that would have just it was so loud in there this weekend. Like, the only thing I could imagine being louder is those two teams playing at the Cotton Bowl. But it sets up well. But again, we are mostly talking about who's not in it as opposed to who is in it. And I think that's important given the fact that the teams that are mad that they're not in it, for example, BYU hasn't, they've kind of stayed in their lane, but Notre Dame, and then of course Texas building up to it, and some of the other ones, they're mad. They did this. They built it. They're the ones who agreed to it. They're the ones who knew that they had to get the other colleges that were not Power 5 or Power 4 teams to agree to this framework so they can institute it. And if it blows up in their face in the second damn year, they don't have enough foresight to see, like, oh, well, maybe we would get left out of this thing.
Well, yeah, there's some teams who are angry, and that leads to the next topic. Craig?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be great to just have had this bracket drop yesterday, like to my point a few minutes ago, and have that be the bulk of the discussion. And then you'd have your teams that were certainly upset about being left out or whatever, but at least they'd have something a bit more clear-cut in front of them. Now, they still might not digest it because they don't like the result, but at least it would be more digestible if it wasn't like, oh, yeah, I know you thought you were in and you didn't play and you thought that was guaranteed, but then we decided just now to throw Miami back over you. Like, just that kind of BS from the committee that needs to be eliminated and eradicated entirely from this whole operation, I think would go a long way for everybody, and you still wouldn't make everybody happy. It's impossible, but that would go a long way. And then today we'd be spending the top of the show talking about these games as opposed to wanting to go back to the conversation about why this all sucks. So as far as the games go, you know, I do have a heart for the smaller schools. I don't like having 2 G5s in the college football playoff when there's only 12 teams. I don't. I know that's how it worked out, but I don't like it. I don't think that if we're going to have 12 teams fighting for the national title that there should be 2 G5s. I just don't. I think when it ultimately worked out the way that it did for the Big 12, BYU had, as we'll get to, ample reason to feel like they were in that pack of the UTs and Vanderbilts and Notre Dame, and feel like they got a bit of the raw end of this deal. But ultimately, I think Texas Tech is proven to be one of the class schools in this campaign this year, and I think they're going to go into the playoff and stand a good chance to make a lot of noise. But, man, Oregon in that first matchup, I mean, they're playing with fire right away. At least they get to sit back and watch that one. But, yeah, Oregon, JMU, okay. Alabama, Oklahoma, a rematch. I think that'll be a good game. That'll be heated. There'll be a great crowd for that one. Ole Miss, Tulane, I'm sorry, guys. I can't get excited for that one. We saw it. We saw them lose by multiple touchdowns. I don't see why it would be much different this time around, except for the fact that the coaching situations are all very different now. Summerall's on his way out. Kiffin is out. So maybe, with weeks having passed by, that's a little bit different. But I'm probably – I don't know. I don't know if I'm least excited by that one or Oregon James Madison, but Miami A&M will be awesome. And I'm not a big brand guy. I do want the best games. I do want you to earn your way there, and they earned their way there technically. I just don't think there should be 2 games that feel like that David versus Goliath in the first round when there are a stack of 5 teams going, what about us? That's where the problem comes in. So Miami A&M don't have a deep history, but they do have a somewhat recent history.
Yeah, I went to a couple of them.
They played here recently. They played a handful of times, and I think that ought to be a hell of a matchup with some great crowd and action and all of that. So, I think this is still going to be fun once it gets rolling, but we are going to have probably a couple instances where there's a blowout in the first round, and then everybody's going to complain. And, again, we'll find ourselves, rather than enjoying this whole thing, finding ourselves complaining more about it than actually enjoying it, and that's what I don't like.
So Alabama, the conference championship game, was smoked by Georgia. BYU was thumped again by Texas Tech, and they dropped. Here's a note from Brad Powers. There have been 16 conference championship game losers that were ranked in the college football top 25 entering the game. 15 of the 16 losers dropped in the next poll. The lone exception was this year's Alabama, and there's a lot of discussion about that. And then also, because of that, well, let's think about it. In 2017, don't go to the next one yet. 2017, Auburn beat Alabama and Georgia in the regular season, but then lost to Georgia in the SEC championship game. It was their 3rd loss. Alabama was idle and still got in the college football playoffs, so Auburn was punished for playing in the championship game. And then we mentioned BYU, and they deserve to get punished because they were smoked twice by Texas Tech. Debatable whether they should have been a part of the field. But Alabama, out of everybody, is the one that did not drop. And you wonder if the move the week before was just a subtle move to protect the Crimson
But no,
Tide.
it wasn't subtle at all. It was very transparent what they were doing. They were setting this exact thing up when they made that move last week because they needed to set it up. Otherwise, it would really be some backlash if they decided to go, oh, well, we don't do anything the week prior, and then we make this big swooping move, and here comes Alabama. This whole thing on Saturday when this was all unfolding was really being looked at as this is a Notre Dame problem, and we'll get to Notre Dame. There are problems with Notre Dame. This is a Miami problem. This is a whatever problem. It's no, it's an Alabama problem. That's what it is. It's an Alabama problem because they are the lone example compared to the others where there was no negative for getting your ass whipped, which they got their ass whipped by Georgia on Saturday. That game was all Georgia, and they do have, we beat Georgia. That is very true. And so they do have that in their back pocket. So you can't sit there and just pretend like that didn't happen. So Alabama doesn't have zero argument, but it's the execution of it all. That's where the committee ruins this whole thing. Because if the computers just spit out and said, sorry, about your damn luck, but Alabama's just better than BYU, and this is the reason why, because of strength of record and because of multiple top 25 wins and because their loss is better than your losses or this or that, even though it wouldn't be because they lost to Florida freaking State. No offense, Paul, but
it is,
it's if it was that, then argue with a brick wall. Go argue with your MacBook. But you wouldn't be sitting there arguing with some athletic director who's cracking jokes on the stupid TV show every Tuesday. Like that to me is the biggest issue out of all of this, even though there's a lot of issues. So yeah, the Alabama part of this was the sticking point, I think, for everybody was why do they go unpunished? And why is this not typically how this works when you lose a game on that final week?
Well, and look, they were the beneficiaries of the snub with FSU. They benefit more than anybody else has. And
I think Ohio State's in that conversation too.
Yeah, but
But here's the thing: they were not going to get left out 2 years in a row.
No, and
that's why they were in the playoffs.
Yeah, so
because Sankey would have thrown. You talk about Notre Dame throwing a fit.
Yeah.
See, that's what I think. I don't think they were sitting there going like, we can't piss off Sank. But I do think there had to be some thought of like, we can't leave Alabama out 2 years in a row. And if you do, what does that then turn into where the SEC is the one taking their ball and going home?
Well, then they would say we're not playing any games the rest of the year.
But don't you think there's some element of that?
Oh, no, he would have been furious.
The SEC is also the last couple weeks been throwing out, well, like, maybe we don't play any good non-conference games at all.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't schedule these things anymore. So there's all these potentially idle threats out there. But the committee also did something, and I don't know if they realize they do it or they don't realize they do it until after the fact, but they had 4 teams that lived in 2 jars. They could take BYU and Alabama and say, look, the conference, we can't punish you for being in the conference championship game. The only thing it's going to affect is the seeding, and throw them up there. And they had Notre Dame and Miami and say, like, all right, well, if these teams both lose in the conference championship game, here's your opening. You guys are the best teams you're in. And, the conference championship game meant something. But instead, they took one team from either jar, and they really wrecked the situation. So either Notre Dame and Miami are both in, or Alabama and BYU are both in, but you can't take one from either jar and justify it differently.
Well, also the Auburn or the Alabama thing was set up when they actually moved up after beating 5-7 Auburn. Let's not forget
they pre-planned these, like they dropped
5
little
and 7
crumbs.
Auburn and they got a credit.
I mean, you could see it coming. Like there's people out there who do similar things to what we do, same line of business and talking college football, and they're like, hey, I bet you this Tuesday they're going to put Alabama here, because if they don't, well then this. Like I remember like Bud Elliott had something that turned out to be like totally right on, that they had to move Bama because if they didn't, then it would put them in a weird position on that final weekend. So like that's the kind of stuff. We don't need that going on. We don't need like this maneuvering around where one week this team's better than you, but you went and beat an FCS school and they did nothing wrong. But because we need to set them up to then move them next week and not make it look really as dumb as it looks, like that's not the stuff that needs to be happening with your playoff system. The playoff system needs to be just like, these are the teams. They earned it because the computer says they earned it, not the Arkansas AD speaking for the other ADs who all have their own vested interest, and they're just loving their camera time and their stay at the Gaylord, and they're sitting here just making it up as they go along. Like that's all this other stuff, strength of schedule and everything like that. We would still argue about whether BYU deserved to be in over Alabama or who would beat who, no matter what the field looks like. Like that's never going to change. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with everybody bitching about Notre Dame and BYU or about Alabama getting or whatever. I just hate that we're bitching about this because a bunch of dudes in suits are just making it up.
Yeah, well, like the men's basketball tournament is released, and there's a handful of schools that kind of get a little bit hot and bothered. But you know what they do within about 3 hours? Let's look at the bracket and go and start the tournament and move on. Notre Dame left out. Notre Dame always had that loss to Miami. You can look at their schedule. Who did they beat? USC and Pittsburgh, I think, were both in the top 25, but they were sitting there like just hanging off the cliff. And then they get left out, and then what do? Like a petulant child, not saying they shouldn't be upset, but like a petulant child said, F you, we're not going to bowl game. We're not going to be a part of this. And there's something else to this as well when it comes to the ACC. But what did you guys honestly think when you saw that they were pulling out of playing and what would have been against BYU in a bowl game?
I thought it was pathetic. And look, I didn't like it. I don't know if anybody's out there like, oh, but you're a Florida State guy and all they opted out and they basically quit the Orange Bowl. Yeah. And guess what? all those emotional decisions sent them on a path down a bad road. And when you start doing that, Notre Dame, then you start not really focusing on what you've done right and what you can make better. It's how everybody else seemingly screwed you. And everything you're doing is responding. And like I've watched Pete Bavacqua in the last 48 hours come out there and he's just like pop, 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 pop. And instead of going like, you know what? Jack Swarbrick was one of the guys who built this thing. We did not anticipate this being an issue, so let's go and fix it. Not to mention that he admitted, which we'll get to in a second, that they've already taken care of this issue for the future playoff if it happens the same way. So, like, what are we're talking about? Notre Dame doesn't make the playoff 1 year, and it's hands across America for the Irish, who already have built-in advantages that no one else in all of college athletics has? No, I mean, like, this is a really bad look for them. It's a really bad look for their program in that, look, go play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, have some fun, win the game, stick double birds to everybody, but that's not what happened.
Yeah, and so they pull out, and go ahead. What was your reaction when you saw it, Craig?
First, I was excited about Notre Dame and BYU. I thought that was going to be a hell of a bowl game. I was really excited to see that game. And at the Pop-Tarts Bowl especially, I thought they could have a lot of fun with that. That would probably be in the running for the best non-CFP game of the entire bowl season. And so that was a fun matchup. That will still be fun. BYU, Georgia Tech it'll be great. I mean, that's like the Grit Bowl, that game.
It's a very awesome matchup.
Yeah, Haynes King and Bear Bachmeier just need to run into each other 50 times and see who's standing at the end of it. But, so we lucked out and still got a really good matchup. But, I thought initially that I hated that it was eliminating that contest there. But then I just kind of let it sink in for a little while, and I felt like the questions that started coming to my mind were, so is Notre Dame just never going to play in a bowl game if it's not a playoff game? Are we setting that precedent now? Like you're not going to play in any game unless it's the playoff if you feel like you deserve to be there? Is that what we're going to do now? Like the bashing of the ACC or the lashing at the ACC, I guess some of it, like they were promoting Miami on social media and like what some of it was comparing them to Notre Dame and all that.
They were running the game on the ACC network.
Running the game on the ACC. Like, so it wasn't as though the ACC wasn't out there like giving them reason to feel like the ACC wasn't really at their corner, but they also are not a full football member or a football member of the ACC. So it's a classic case of Notre Dame wanting their cake and eating it too. Am I saying that right? Having their cake and eating it too.
Yeah.
And I think this is like the golden example of that. But I guess, you know what? No, my first thought was they got screwed. That actually was my first thought was, oh, wow, they left Notre Dame out after not playing. And then they watched Duke win that ACC championship game. And then they've still put Miami in and they put him in over Notre Dame, but not until this final weekend. That was my first thought. And I thought if I was Notre Dame, I would absolutely be pissed. Now, how they've handled it since, I haven't agreed with. And that's where I'm like, so what are you just boycotting bowl games now? You're only going to go if people say it's for the national title. Like, I think that's a stupid precedent. But yeah, my first reaction was like, they have every right to be pissed, but they had a right to be pissed. And now they're the kid throwing the tantrum that's not ending. And I don't think it's coming across well.
No, and
but they don't care.
No, they don't care because they're big enough not to have to care. Pete Bavacqua, the AD at Notre Dame, was on Dan Patrick earlier today and said in an interview, I listened to it. I didn't want to use the audio because we have so much to get to, but he said that the ACC did permanent damage to Fighting Irish's relationship with the ACC. Earlier, the school announced, of course, Bavacqua would have a press conference on Tuesday. So are they going to break away from the ACC in all the sports but football because they're not a part of the ACC in there? Is it the ACC's fault that Notre Dame isn't a football member? So what are they threatening here? And I got to tell you, we're going to have a note from Sarkisian, who, again, he spent 2 weeks trying to prop his team up, which is his job, but then handled the non-playoff format appearance like you would hope that Notre Dame and everybody else. And by the way, Notre Dame's not the only school that all of a sudden we're done, we're not playing the rest of the season. We'll get to that note because that's another sidebar to this entire story.
Well, one was the ACC not supposed to promote Miami? Were they not supposed to do that? Because
at their expense, though, is how they're looking at it.
I know. But like, were they not supposed to? And maybe it wasn't a good idea to do it someone who's in your own conference for every other sport. But also, if Notre Dame would like to get into the real brass tacks of how the ACC with 17 teams has such a stupid, convoluted tiebreaker, let's go back to the time when Stanford and Cal were sitting out there with no place to go, and Notre Dame, not a full football member, strong-armed them into the league. So Notre Dame is out there blaming everyone but themselves for this. Literally everyone, and they had as much a hand in this as anyone else. And if they had just said that, like, we did not foresee any of this when we kind of made these moves, and we would like to make some reforms that make sure that the 12 best teams are in, regardless if it's Notre Dame or not. That's the messaging you need to send. But instead, it's like, we've been wronged. We ride at dawn, and I could just tell you it didn't work out for the last team that went through this, and it's not going to work out for you. It might work out a little bit better because you have more power and independence, but it's still like, this is not a good way to approach this.
Yeah. No, it seems like it's very childish.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get to other bowl opt-outs. I actually think some of them are reasonable. Like, I know everybody wants this idea of how it was at Christmas and you were 11 years old and bowl games are awesome and all that, but like, I'm sorry, like I just live in the real world now, and nostalgia is great, but it's also a bad drug sometimes. And so we got to just be honest about what bowl games are at this point, and not all of them are created equal. I don't think any team should sit there and say, well, it's CFP or bust for us. Like, that's what I want to know about Notre Dame is like, is this just for this year, or are you can basically just do this whenever you don't feel like it's worthy of you? But I do understand like where they're coming from to some degree as far as NFL opt-outs and the team looks like and all that, but you'd still have plenty of players to play. It's like the clip going around of the LSU player whose name I forget, where he's like, we got 11, we're going to go to like, we got 11, that's all we need. Like, we'll play both ways and we'll do that. And it was for some bowl game that was not the national championship. The Texas Bowl. Yeah. And they did, and they won. And like, I think from like a sportsmanship standpoint, that's where this really just looks sorry for Notre Dame. It's from the competition, the sportsmanship, the spirit of the game standpoint. That's where I think they really look to be in a bad light. Like, they can talk out their reasons, and you can even see in certain cases, like, yeah, they did get screwed, but so did BYU, and so did Texas potentially, or so did Vanderbilt, like, they're not all packing their bags and leaving because they didn't get what they wanted, and that's basically what you look like. Whether or not that's the message you're trying to come across with, that's now how you are portrayed for everyone out there who's not wearing navy and gold. You look like the big crybaby who didn't get your way, and you always get your way, and the one time you didn't, you're taking your ball and you're going home. And so they have reasons to be upset, but I do think the way they handled this was a bit extreme, and now you turned it into taking a shot at the ACC. And what this press conference is going to be tomorrow, like, yeah, this is suddenly ramped up in a major way, and I don't know if it's going to – I don't know what it's going to turn into.
Well, I do know this. It is interesting because there's a lot of blue bloods and alphas and logos that feel like they should always get their way. And this year, that didn't happen for more than just one or two. And when they start fighting with each other, that kind of makes me happy. Seriously, it shouldn't, but – here's another thing about Notre Dame. So this was from Ross Dellinger as all of this was going down, that next year, as a part of the change in the college football playoff, they signed an agreement that Notre Dame, if they're in the top 12, they will be in the 14-team playoff. If it goes to 14 teams, they still can't even get that straight. So even with all of this, they're guaranteed that next year, if they're among the top 12, which this year would have gotten them in, they will be in, making an exception for Notre Dame. And yet they want to take their toys and go home.
So this is a problem that literally exists for the next month. That's it. That's what they're complaining about, is a problem that exists for the next month that they already probably in the last couple months, when all this was maybe going down and the ACC was spiraling in the direction that it was like, hey, let's make sure that we do this, because the way, and look, we've seen it in the Big 12 multiple times where they're like, who's the champion? The real champions know who they are in their heart, like that kind of thing. Well, we've seen it screw up where the people who make these things don't figure these things out, that sports is not finite and it's not fluid, and that it's fluid and things can happen that you don't expect. And in the second year, I remember when the 12-team playoff came out, people were like, oh, well, that means multiple G5 teams could get in. And most people were like, that'll never happen. Second year. You know why? Because parity happened, and some leagues are better at it than others, and you got this, and now you're mad about it, but you all voted for this, and arrogance kept you from seeing that this could happen.
But they are protected now.
Yes.
They have to go still win, but bitching about this year, and yet they're going to be protected starting immediately when they move to a 14 team or whatever amount of playoff teams we're going to have next year.
Yeah, I mean, so they get that Notre Dame advantage that pops up from time to time, the advantages of being independent and being able to maintain that, because so many schools have been forced into it or tried it and just simply can't not go without a conference, and they've been able to do it. But again, they've had their cake. Tell me again, why do I keep stumbling on this?
Had their cake and eaten it too.
They've had their cake and eaten it. I think I'm trying to say it from a weird angle, but yeah, they've had their cake and they've eaten it plenty of times, and this time they didn't get their cake, and they're like a kid who wants their sugar, and they're having a little bit of a sugar fit. Now, I get it. It's a big deal. It's a shot at a national championship. It's a shot at a bunch of marquee games and a bunch of money and a great opportunity for your players. So if I'm a Notre Dame fan, I'm pissed. I just don't fully agree with the way they've reacted to all of it, to where now you're threatening this, like if you're threatening this maybe denouncement of the ACC tomorrow at this press conference that's now very vague about what it will be about. And you've got Jim Phillips now reacting to the quotes from Pete Bavacqua. And so all these things, it's like, so you're the big bully that doesn't get your way, and you immediately threaten to throw something on people to get your way, or to punish people because you didn't get your way. And that's what it looks like, rather than being what they were, which was a team that was very much wronged and should have just been that. And had they gone and played BYU, people would be like, you know what? Good for Notre Dame. They wouldn't play this game, and hell, Notre Dame BYU will be effing awesome. And instead, but you're like, yeah, they acted kind of
childish. But we have a trend of when Notre Dame linebacker Jalen Smith was injured in a bowl game.
Yes.
Badly.
Yes.
And the following year, the trend then became players started opting out of bowl games to try to prevent from being injured. And then that's turned into what we now see. Now, there were other schools that wanted to take their toys and go home because, well, coaching changes or more, but I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And we're going to come back and discuss the teams that were supposed to be in bowl games this year that won't be because of decisions they made. And the Big 12's a part of that too. We'll do that in the next segment. This is 365 Sports. PettyClinicLOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, ED, lack of performance, even if you're okay with that other part, and or just not enough energy that affects everything. Dr. Petty will set you up to get your blood work. Contact him, PettyClinicLOT.com. He will set you up to get your blood work and take care of that appointment. You give your blood, he gets the results. They will get in touch with you, PettyClinicLOT.com, and give you the option of increasing your testosterone levels so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicLOT.com.
Batteries Plus has teamed up with the Dallas Cowboys as the team's official battery recycling partner. Batteries Plus doesn't just sell batteries, they recycle them too. Customers can bring in all lithium batteries from power tools, power banks, and small electronics for a chance to win Cowboys tickets, a VIP experience, and more at qualifying locations. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
You have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
Golfballs.com carries the latest selection of golf balls, clubs, and gear from brands such as Titleist, TaylorMade, and Callaway. Golfballs.com remains the world leader in golf customization. And of course, online at golfballs.com.
UBO Business Services. We are a studies-based service organization that is the best in Texas when it comes to copiers, printers, and scanners. The way we quantify that is through a company used by millions of corporations called Net Promoter Score. What Net Promoter Score looks at are your Google reviews. We have a better Net Promoter Score than H-E-B with a 65 and Ritz-Carlton Hotels with a 70. According to Net Promoter Score, if you're a 70 or above, you're considered world-class in customer service. UBO Business Services is an 86 when it comes to Net Promoter Score. You can find us at ubeo.com, ubeo.com.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin. And you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
It's football season, and we can create your outdoor tailgating spaces that is actually a part of your home. Bifold doors that tie in the inside and the outside, and you can gain anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 square feet living space, all while taking in the big game, poolside. Call us at Gather & Co. Kitchen and Bath, where we can create your unique tailgating space.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%. Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels. We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
By the way, yes, at the top of the hour, we will look back at AT&T Stadium and our trip and our pregame and the game between Tech and BYU in a lot of different ways, and hear a little bit from Joey McGuire, which I had a chance to visit with him in the Tech locker room following all of the post-game celebrations. So that's coming up today at 4 o'clock. Iowa State and Kansas State going through coaching changes, but I was disappointed in this, honestly. Both of them have been fined $500,000 by the Big 12 Conference. 2 bowl-eligible teams declined to accept bowl bids. Brandon, do we have that one up? I don't see it. There we go. There are the 2 logos, $500,000, pretty steep. Both of them going through transitions, but college coaches, staffs have done this all the time. This then set off a chain. How about this? Florida State, Auburn, UCF, Baylor, and Rutgers, all then at 5 and 7 were offered a chance to play in a bowl game, and gave various reasons why they couldn't or didn't want to.
Okay, you said you have a problem with this. I think these are 2 different issues with these teams that I almost don't have as much of a problem. I wish they would play. But if you are Kansas State and Iowa State, your portal window actually opens well before everybody else's. It, in fact, opens for Iowa State or tomorrow, or Kansas State tomorrow, and Iowa State on Wednesday. So you're going to have a lot of guys that might be jumping in the portal, and that really complicates bowl preparation, as where a lot of these other teams, their bowl window doesn't open up until, or their portal window opens up on January 2nd, even though there are guys saying they're going into the portal. This one is accelerated by the fact that they both have new coaches. And as for the 5 and 7 teams, well, the minute that they hit that 7th loss, they have now downshifted into the offseason, whether it's they have one game to play left or not, and coaches start leaving, players start being told they're not coming back. That's a big thing. I think people don't realize.
Well, I got a note from I got a source at Baylor that said the reason they turned it down was because they've already started to make decisions on roster cuts and pending coaching changes.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of guys they don't want to hang around for another month and practice with for the sake of some bowl game, which I know, like, again, the nostalgia and how we all think of these things. But, dude, I watched the Bahamas Bowl in the last few years. Once you get past the quirkiness of it and the sickos committee aspect of it, which is fun and charming and everything, but once you really dive into it, you're like, we don't need this. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Okay, I agree. I understand. But you know what? You're there to play football. And I get the circumstances. I understand that. But you're there to play football.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Hold on. Let me finish.
Okay,
right? But I'll answer you. You're there to play football. That's why you're playing or at any of those campuses. It's like everything we see now, we opt out of it if we don't like it or don't get our way, Notre Dame. But I just think this is setting a bad precedent. And it just became contagious. Now, some of these schools don't give a blank about what I think. That's fine. But this to me was greasy.
You overlook a completely huge detail in, you say you're there to play football until the school that you're playing football at tells you, we don't want you to play football for us anymore. And then because of weird circumstances beyond their control, all of a sudden a bowl calls up and says, hey, do you 5 and 7 team want to come and play in a bowl? And then you've got to call this guy back and say, hey, we've changed our mind.
All right, so let me use this as an example that I did on Saturday. Nebraska didn't miss a bowl game for 4 decades. Then all of a sudden they missed one, scattered, they got a couple of, then they went 7-8 years without one. To me, it's still an honor to be invited to a bowl game and play in it. I know things change. Some of these schools that are used to going to bowls, and especially a Florida State or an Auburn, and for the most part, Baylor, now all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's 5 or 6 years and you haven't been to one. I get that things have changed. My opinion, despite everything else, is I don't like the look of this. This is it. That's my opinion.
I mean, I think, you're entitled to your opinion. You don't need to sit there and say anything other than what you said. I think that the point that I didn't get to finish there was I can understand some teams who have already broken everything down to go into the offseason and kids who have already gone home for the holidays and have basically said, well, we didn't earn a bowl game. I'm going to go back and play around town for a couple weeks for the next month or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And we're just going to get, like, they've already shut it down and started working on the next year. So when you call them up, like, oh, but can you get your team together and get everything scrambled and, like, get the jets back in order, get all the planes back, and can we get this thing taken off for flight, like, here in the next couple of weeks? Like, I don't think everybody is in a situation to just do that on a moment's notice. And so the Baylor example, I don't think they want these guys around for another month in some cases. I get the honor and the prestige of it. I don't advocate sitting out a bowl game because it's not good enough, like we're talking about with Notre Dame, but I do think that not every one of these situations are necessarily the same. So I'd have to know more about why UCF doesn't want to do it. I don't know that to be exactly. I don't know why Rutgers doesn't want to do it. I know why Baylor doesn't want to do it. I know why Iowa State doesn't want to do it. Maybe seniors don't want to play their last game with not Matt Campbell as their head coach. Maybe they want to go out as the Matt Campbell team and not this team that's got this interim and they're kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out. That's why I said on Friday when I was here for a brief minute that I could understand if K-State post-Kleiman, if their seniors decide, you know what, it's been fun, but like we just don't feel the reason to go play for an interim and do all that or whatever. I can understand where they're coming from, and that's their choice. And they also don't view the bowls at 20 years old like people who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who, this is the greatest thing ever. You should be blessed with this opportunity. And I get, it's like the Notre Dame thing. From a spirit and a competition standpoint and the heart of the game, it does suck. You are right about that. But the game done changed, folks. Like, we can disagree on why that is or agree on why that is, and we can all agree that that sucks for the main big picture of college football, but it's also the reality. And so yeah, it's not worth it for everybody to just say like, well, we went to another bowl game, all the effort that goes into having to put all of that together, especially when you may be a team like Baylor, who the last thing you want to do is put this team back together because you're trying to put a new team together in these following weeks. So I can't give you a good reason why all of these teams decided to do this. I think UCF would have probably benefited greatly from it. But I also know they're probably trying to find a new quarterback right now. So
yeah, you get 15 practices. Well, if you have a team that's most of it's coming back, or at least a chunk of it's coming back, then the 15 practices for those who are coming back would be helpful, no matter who the staff is going to be or not.
But I would say that for Auburn in particular, there's a chunk of those players that won't be back. They have a new coach in Alex Golish. And my point is, from the player's perspective, if I'm a player who's already been told by the team that I'm not coming back in 2026.
Sure.
And I've made that decision.
Sure.
And then a bowl calls up and says, hey, we would like Florida State in the game. And then Mike Norvell calls me and goes, hey, you know how I told you to get your ass out?
You have 105 players on scholarship. Most schools do. Now, I know some of them are 85.
But you don't know how many players he's told to get the hell out.
I don't know that either. Why do you
in what positions?
Why do you go starting when your season ends the year before, blood, sweat, and tears, through weights and all of conditioning all throughout for 9 months before you play games? Why do you do all that in the offseason if you're going to have a chance to play another game and then you walk away?
So, no. Let me ask you a question from you personally, if it happened to you personally. Okay, if I came to you, I'm the head coach of the program. I'm the head coach at Rutgers, Greg Schiano. And I said, David, we appreciate everything you've contributed to us. The season is over, and I want you to know that you are not coming back in 2026.
I just said I agreed with that example.
Yeah, that's my example.
What about the 68 other players who are coming
Well, that's
back?
the thing, guys, is I think we all agree on the same premise that, yeah, this sucks, and we don't like it. But I also can understand the situations that I am fully aware of. I can understand why Baylor does not want to play in that game if you're Dave Aranda. Like, yes, it looks good in the media guide, but the best thing for his team next year to save his job in this particular instance is to get this team out of here and get this new team coming in here. So that's where all of his focus needs to be, because otherwise this will be the last opportunity he ever has to go to a bowl game, most likely. So I think, like, this is a generational thing. This is the game has changed completely thing. And like the Notre Dame story, can we all agree that this is against the spirit and this is against the competition? This is against, like, the purity of the sport. We all agree on that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're all understanding of that. But you can see where in a couple cases you can at least go, like, I understand why some guys might not want to go put the pads back on for Kansas State with the way things ended and Kleiman leaving, and they just don't want to do that. Like, ultimately the players do have some say. So ask the players who didn't want to play in the bowl game why they didn't want to play in it. Maybe because they're too beat up after 12 weeks and they want to get ready for the NFL. Hi, Notre Dame. That's a big part of their story, is like, so you mean to tell me we can go play in this bowl game, which absolutely would be a load of fun with BYU in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, or Jeremiah Love can just get ready for the NFL? Now, there is a difference in playing for the Pop-Tarts Bowl, as fun as that is, versus playing for a national championship. Like, so I mean, I think that's where people are coming from with some of these decisions.
Yeah, so you're not going to play in one game, but you might have committed to playing in 4, right? That's another thing. That's okay because it's for the national championship, but if it's not, we're just not going to play.
That juice is worth the squeeze for some people.
Yeah,
Maybe tearing your ACL in the Pop-Tarts Bowl isn't worth the risk versus if you're in the third round of the playoffs or you're fighting for a national title and you're going to put your body out there. That's for an individual to decide that.
I will say this, the thing that kind of made me stop for a second, about 4 something, whatever it was, when I got a note from someone at Baylor that told me we have already started making roster cuts, which is, again, okay, that's fine. You don't want those guys around, so why should they go do anything for you? I get that. But that was also something that it was kind of like, damn, because it's not as one-sided as we thought. The players get everything they want, and they get to eat the cake and eat it too.
And it's because, like, we don't know. Like,
we also don't know how many players also agreed to make these moves. Again, it's not just the coach going, we're not playing in the bowl game.
I wonder if it was the players that made some of these decisions.
Well, it has to be.
No, not necessarily, because not every one of those teams didn't have enough players to play in a bowl game. That's what I like. For example, did Dave Aranda make this decision? Did Dr. Livingstone make this decision? Did the players make the decision? I don't
think that you're sitting there and just telling the team what they're going to do when you've got a lame duck head coaching situation or something along those lines. I think that you talk to your players council, and I believe in a couple of these instances they did talk to the players council, and the players leadership, speaking for the rest of the team, said, we think it would be better if we didn't go play in a bowl game. So this isn't on the boogeyman. These are players also deciding. Now, if you want to question the players, again, the spirit, the genuine nature of college football and all that, guys, we're all on the same page that this is totally against that. What Notre Dame's doing is totally against that. But it is what it is. Like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, yeah, you may not like it, but it is what it is. And I did find that kind of disturbing yesterday, and I felt bad for Georgia Southern. Like, Jesus, does anybody want to play these guys? And you know what? They ended up in a much better situation with this great rivalry matchup.
Another unique story about what they're getting ready to do.
Well, also, like, one of the things you said, Smokey, but you said there are 68 other players that could play, but what positions do they play?
What was the example about LSU said, just give us 11 guys, we'll go both ways?
That's all well and good, except if, say you've decided that your offensive line is total, absolute dog shit, and you've told most of them, like, go, and now you don't have enough. You have 4 offensive linemen.
You keep using that as an example. I understand that example.
So, like, but when you said, like, the players, it's not just that. It's some of it. Like, that's why I don't begrudge these 5 and 7 teams for this. Now, do I begrudge not Kansas State? They had that situation. Iowa State's weird.
Iowa State, we have Stormy Cyclones busting my balls because I mentioned Iowa State. He said, Smokey, and this is from a guy, it was the players in the administration that took a vote in the Iowa State case. Yes, because Matt Campbell's on his way to Penn State.
Yeah, and there's a guy who says, I don't want to play for some interim, no matter how much I might love that guy, as my final game as a Cyclone. I want to play for Matt Campbell in that final game I just played for him. So, like, this isn't hive mind. Everybody's got their reasons, and you may not like those reasons, but they've got their reasons. And ultimately, they're not sitting there, some AD going, I'm not going to consider any player's mindset here, especially in a situation where the coach changed, and I'm not going to ask our coach. I'm just going to say we're playing in this game no matter what, or we're not playing this game no matter what. Like, no, of course there's consultation, and the coaches, clearly Dave Aranda and his leadership had some say in whether they wanted to go play in a bowl game or not, or whatever other example. Now, I don't think all examples are created equal, probably. I find it hard to believe that multiple teams who don't have coaching changes are also doing this. But guess what? Their season ended in their minds 2 weeks ago, and a bunch of dudes went home for Christmas.
Or had already planned after the semester, which some are wrapping
Exactly.
up.
So there's that element to this as well. Like,
okay, there's some of that is true, and some of what I'm saying is true too.
Yeah, like I think, like I said from the very beginning, we're all on the same page as far as the spirit of the game and all of that. The situation sucks. It sucks that bowl games don't mean as much as they did 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. But I don't think we paint this broad brush in any of these examples. Like, there are some legitimate reasons as to why these teams did not want to play. And you know what? You didn't earn it to begin with. Mm-hmm. So if you got a call, you were not expecting to work.
Well,
and you got a call in the middle of the night, and it's like 2 a.m. It's like, hey, dude, you show up for work in the morning? It's like, I thought, you know, the job was done. It's like, no, I don't want to show up for work tomorrow morning. You don't want to show up and work tomorrow morning? Like, no, I had the next 2 weeks planned off. Like, I get it, though, from a competition standpoint. Like, you should want to go play one more game with your brothers, and you should want to go get in the mud and the dirt and all those things. But just not everybody's cut out that way.
In fact, if they ever get to a point where bowl games actually pay the players for that game, and it's not an extra game, how many of these schools would have still made that decision?
Oh, all of them. I mean, like, the first one that called us said, hey, if you're going to get $35,000 to show up and play in this game, that have been like, hey, dust it off.
And let's not sit here and act like the bowls are victims here necessarily.
I get it.
I'm not speaking to you. I'm just saying in general.
I'm sorry. Am I not? I'm here. I'm listening to you.
I know. I'm just not singling you out when I'm talking in general. Just relax. It's all right. We're having a fun conversation. We can disagree on some things without it being a deal. So I don't think that we should sit there and worry too much about the poor bowl game. Like, they'll be fine. They found new opponents and all of that. But yeah, if you want these guys to show up, we are in the era where, yeah, if you want these guys to be there, you want Notre Dame to be there, then you're probably going to have to pay some NIL money. And if you don't do that, then they're probably not going to do it. And you can disagree with that, and you can think that's not right. Again, 15th time now, the spirit and the competition and the heart of the game and all those things. But That's the game now.
Well, no, I'm the one that brought up if you paid them, would they all be playing? And the answer is most likely they would have maybe had a different decision.
And I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, and like the basketball tournaments, the one in Vegas and the other ones in the preseason tournaments that guys are getting a chance to get paid when they're already getting paid in the first place. So then what happened? 8-4 said no. 6-6 said no. 5-7 said no. Appalachian State They broke the mold. Yesterday, accepting an invitation to play against Georgia Southern in the Birmingham Bowl on December 29th. And these two teams just played on November 6th. And they're rivals, and they're in the same conference. Good for them, Appalachian State, for wanting to play. And they were probably set up in many ways to go ahead and play this game.
Yeah, I mean, some teams are set up to they're already kind of built for a couple years into the future. That they don't have coaching tumult like Appalachian State doesn't. So I love this. I love that. Look, that the fans in the Sun Belt Conference get another rivalry game, essentially. Look, Vanderbilt was trying to play a 13th game against somebody anyway. Like, this is kind of similar to that. Like, hey, you know what? Let's go and play. They don't like each other. Let's roll it out and play it. So
one other quote, Brett McMurphy had this, and then I want to get to Steve Sarkisian, then we break and look at the Big 12 weekend. An ACC rep was asked about the bowl picture, what it looks like after Duke's win and Miami and Notre Dame's playoff uncertainty. Is cluster blank a one word or hyphenated? That's where they were. That was even before the standings rankings came out on Sunday. Steve Sarkisian didn't like a lot of what he was saying, but I understood what he was trying to say when they were trying to get Texas. Hey, don't forget about us. And by the way, Texas and Vanderbilt were never even brought up much at all during the final release on Sunday, during, or even afterwards. Steve Sarkisian, who, again, wanted to try to make sure he sold his team's story, then said this: I don't know about the ripple effect for everybody. We have goals and aspirations of winning conference championships and winning national championships. At least we do. But I also think there's an experience factor in all of this. There's a growth in all of this. There's development in all of this. There's camaraderie. There's so much that goes into this that sometimes a bowl game is about celebrating the season and finishing the season the right way.
Yeah, no, I love that he said this, and look, he's got a youngish team when it comes to experience, and you could watch them this year and say that the 3 losses that they had were due in large part to the fact that this team hadn't, really gelled together a lot, and this is going to help them. And look, historically, we just talked to Mac Brown last week about that game against Michigan that kind of propelled them on to the national championship. This team needs it. Also, this team is not in danger of really breaking up. There might be a few guys, but Texas,
they've had the running back and a couple of guys declare and hit the portal, but not much.
Yeah, they're 9-3. Arch Manning's not going anywhere. Some of the big time guys aren't going anywhere, so they don't have to worry about it the same way that some of the other ones would do. And again, we had 2 Big 12 teams with coaching changes with bowl eligible records, and then Notre Dame, whose situation is a little bit different. But I think Texas, this can benefit them greatly, those 15 practices.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Texas had the same case of Notre Dame where they went into this weekend thinking that they were in no matter what. They didn't feel on Sunday the way that Notre Dame felt. So Steve Sarkisian, I think, is handling it as well as you would. They had a great year. They're going to play in a great bowl game. There's going to be a massive a rash of Michigan and Texas fans all over Orlando for that game. That's a hell of a draw for that bowl. And so that'll be a great one, and that'll be one of the better games of this bowl season. So, I mean, good on Sark. Their situation is their situation, and other situations are different, and I don't think we can paint everybody with the same brush and the same color. And so he feels one way, and his team felt one way. Marcus Freeman and his team felt another way. And so, I mean, I don't think there's right or wrong necessarily here that's black and white. I think that it is just more of a grand statement on the bowl season and just where we are. Let's not pretend like there haven't been conversations for the last 3 years about just this in general and how sustainable that is or how much interest there still is in it. It's not what it was in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So I think that it's good to see that there are big programs that are going to still set up some big-time games and some big-time atmosphere, and I'm glad that Texas will be a part of that.
That might be one of the highest viewed games of all of them, Michigan and Texas in that bowl game. And yes, things do change. Their players used to not get paid, at least not above the table. And a lot of other things have changed, including what we now see with the trend of how they're going to decide the playoff, bowl games themselves, players in the bowl games, although that had started, like I said, after the Jalen Smith injury when he was at Notre Dame. When we come back, AT&T Stadium, some of us were there, hell of an atmosphere, unbelievable attendance, and Texas Tech validated everything we saw from them during the regular season. That and more. And Brett McMurphy will join us. That's tomorrow, by the way, on the weekend that was, and more. This, Dave Bartu will join us at the bottom of the hour. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35. I actually traded a couple of emails with Nick Colwell. Their renovation continues. They've got a lot of it fixed up. It looks really, really good. But if you want to celebrate something during holiday, whether it's a company party, it's just a get-together with you and friends, or something better than that, the Baylor Club has room and space for you to be able to do that inside of all the amenities and what they have, the views inside McLean Stadium. Also, you can book any event for the month of January or February of next year during the month of December, and you will receive your choice free decor or free audio and visual. So let's say it's a symposium or some sort of business meeting or whatever. They will put that in. If you book anything for January and February this month at the Baylor Club, you will get your choice of free decor or free audio and visual. So celebrate the holidays. Also, just enjoy a great club with fantastic chefs and fantastic menu that they've recreated. It's delicious for breakfast or brunch or dinner. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
No car payments for 90 days when you bring your auto loan home to Genco. Get 4.79% for 48 months and make no payments until 2026. Plus, get entered to win 3 months of no car payments. Bring your auto loan home to Genco. Lower your interest rate, save money, and no payments until 2026. For details, go to GencoFCU.org.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Oh, hello again. Put the graphic up, Brandon, please, sir. We have surpassed the 70,000 subscriber number. We have been on a slow climb since that first show we ever did in April of 2020. And there we are. We went past it. Andrew's done a great job of getting things up, along with Garrett, Brandon, Logan, and others. So we are above 70,000, and now let's get to 100,000.
Yeah, and Brandon and Garrett, great. I do want to single out Andrew Valade here on this. It's his strategies that have kind of helped us that we didn't have. We had no idea. We had no idea what we were doing and trying to grow the subscriber base. Since we've added Andrew, the numbers grown exponentially, and it wasn't just slowed. Hey, we got 750 this month. Wow. Like there were big jumps in the last year or so since Andrew's started working with us. So I wanted to single him out in particular because he's done a fantastic job with it.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate all 70+ thousand that have hit that subscribe button and hopefully hit that like button a few times as well. And cool milestone to hit. Guess felt like a year ago hit 60, and then you wonder how long it'll take. And I agree that it's gone by quicker than anticipated because of Andrew and Brandon and Garrett and everybody else behind the scenes and the job they've done. So very much appreciate them because we've just basically sat and talked, but like the things about how we've talked and how it's been cut up and sent out and displayed and all of that, that's not as much as our control. And this isn't some major headquarters in Nashville, with like CBS money behind it, like a 247, or I guess they're all in Nashville, aren't they? All those companies are like rivals on 3/rivals. This was very much like Paul's attic when we first started during COVID. And to get to 70 is a very cool milestone all these years later. And yeah, we want to get to 100, get that plaque. I think that's what we all have in our sights now is getting that damn plaque. Yeah. So got a bit of a ways to go, but we're on a much brisker pace now than we were there for a little while when, we're just kind of out there.
One thing about the trip to AT&T Stadium, Andrew and Garrett were there. Logan was there. Paul was there, and so was I. And we had a great time. Unbelievable 90 minutes of a pregame. The only thing that went badly was that Andrew was almost arrested for clapping when somebody scored in the press box. It was a little bit awkward.
Still not the worst homer I've ever heard in the AT&T press box, no matter what he did. I wasn't there to see it, but the Michigan State media guy from the Cotton Bowl a few years ago, worst I have ever heard. I couldn't identify the person, but biggest homer I've ever heard in the press box. And I actually thought less of AT&T staff after they didn't throw him out. Like it was that embarrassing.
It was bad.
But glad y'all had a good time.
We were in our own booth, so we were protected from Andrew's mistake.
Even better.
It was
so
good.
Like the Sugar Bowl.
We had a private area.
Yeah, we had a private conversation too.
Thank God. Yeah. Thank God. Yeah.
So Texas Tech thumped BYU in Lubbock, and they validated it on Saturday at AT&T Stadium, winning easily 34-7. It was weird. The game was weird because BYU starts off with a 90-yard, 14-play drive, but that was it. Here is a summary of the drives for BYU, and guys, let's discuss the game. They had, after the 14-play, 90-yard scoring drive, 3 plays punt, then downs, punt, end of the first half. They took a knee, missed field goal, interception, punt, fumble, interception, turned over on downs, fumble, punted. That was it. They were choked out, basically, as you would say, when it comes to UFC, and Texas Tech dominated most of the game.
After the first drive, I thought, okay, they've figured out some things on how to get loose. They've got it. They had all their emotion, and they really poured it in to that first drive. After that, Texas Tech has really, really elite football players on defense all across the board. And not to mention the coaching that they have, but their players, and part of the reason that Tech is so good, I don't think they need to be coached that much on what they did wrong on a drive that doesn't go well. I think they know. And so in that drive, they had a penalty. They had a couple things.
BYU
that
threw the kitchen sink at them.
BYU emptied the playbook, reverse pass, like all those different things. But then after that, that was all that BYU had in the kitty at all. And Tech just repeatedly stuffed them. And that, like, just based on their 2 longest drives were the first ones of the half. Like, I'm sure they wished that they just played it like, just, okay, we had a drive, everybody stop, let's go again. Obviously, they missed the field goal, but that's 26 plays were 2 drives, and the rest of it barely eclipsed that.
Yeah, I think Texas Tech might be better than BYU guys. I don't think we need to see a third game to figure that out at this point. I mean, all due respect to BYU, great season, great bowl game upcoming with Georgia Tech, that grittiest of gritty bowl games with Haynes King versus Bear Bachmeier. But yeah, I mean, Texas Tech is just a class above. It's plain as day. Anybody can see it. And Texas Tech is in a class where it does look as though they are talented enough, and especially at the right places and with the right chemistry to go and be one of the elite teams in the playoff this year. And they are one of the elite teams in the country, but now can go and prove that against other quote-unquote elite teams. They've been hardly tested at all in the Big 12. I mean, they had the Arizona State game when Arizona State was still fully healthy and the players were in at quarterback, particularly on what they were doing, as we'll get to a little bit later on. And then you had, maybe a struggle for a moment here and there, but I mean, they've just basically washed the whole league that was on their schedule, at least. And there's no reason to believe they wouldn't have washed everybody else that they didn't get around to play in. And their biggest competition, they washed completely, home and then neutral site. And would they go to Provo and do that? I think that game might be closer, but I'd still take Texas Tech to win that game. Oh, Saturday night, cold weather, I'd still take Texas Tech to win that game because they're just simply better.
They won that kind of game against Utah early on. Yeah,
but their closest competition, they beat Utah in Salt Lake City. So, Texas Tech just a tremendous year, a great season, a perfect capper there. And congratulations to the Red Raiders. Congratulations to all the Tech fans out there. Love my time hanging around Lubbock there for a couple years. I know a ton of Red Raiders, and I know what this means. Other people I get it. This big deal. It's like, no, I know the traveling through the desert and feeling like you weren't in the in crowd. And then even like the last few years of just kind of walking hopelessly and hoping this Joey McGuire thing would be the thing to work out, and hoping that you would eventually be able to have the results that matched the fandom and matched the intensity and matched the effort. And they haven't had those results, save here and there some great seasons under Leach, but nothing like a championship, not a Big 12 championship. And so to go out and actually accomplish that, to do so in such dominant fashion, and to be able to hoist that trophy like that means so much to these guys. And I know it would have meant the same to BYU, who talk about traveling the desert, of independence there for so long, and always feeling like you deserve to be a level higher or a part of a bigger conference. And to finally get that crack, like that would have meant very similar to them, I think, as well. But they've also won a national title. Like, they've had those types of moments. They've had a Heisman Trophy winner. Tech hasn't had that. They've had some award winners here and there, but they've been like a shelf below the elite stuff. And now I know there's a little poo-poo in the Big 12 because it's whatever, but Texas Tech fans don't care because this is an elite step taken by them.
I stayed in touch. Kim was at the game, and there were others who watch and view us. That, man, I hope you enjoyed it. BYU fans that I bumped into as well. But Kim Coulter told me he cried for a while.
Now, I bet.
He really did. I mean, he didn't know if he'd ever see it. Not that he's like going to disappear anytime soon, but the emotions hit him. And every fan who's ever been through a long drought or a never, that makes sense to be able to really, really understand it. Red Raider Roy, Craig, well said, Reckham in the chat room.
Reckham.
I love the story of this Texas Tech team in the modern era of college football, where it's not what people grew up with or what some teams were kind of forced into because of, how there was a delineation between blue bloods and not. And even if you did have some big time alumni, even you were still kind of boxed out at times if you hadn't done it right. But the leadership of Texas Tech came together and read the market the right way. Like, when they were like Warren Buffett when it came to the market of college football. They saw all these things.
They're more like the dudes in The Big Short who saw the housing market and said, like, dude, this thing's like, let's get in on this.
Yeah, they the Big Short of it, like, where they, all right, well, we see this is what's going to happen, so let's attack this from every angle so that we know that we are prepared for whatever shenanigans happens legally. That, okay, we have plan A, we have plan B, they probably had all the way down to plan Z. They were so well thought out. And then when you heard people complaining about them, what they're really saying is, I wish we had guys that had looked at it like this and not sat on their hands and going like, oh no, it's good. When the House settlement, it's all going to change.
There's a lot of jealousy that's being exposed, and I think there's a lot of, we didn't invite you to the party, and it's like, well, somebody else gave us the keys. Like, it wasn't your call, buddy. So here we are. They are the party crashers. And I just want to. I can't wait to see. Like, I want to see it right now, like how much they crash this playoff party, because it could be a short stay. It could be multiple rounds. Like, they're looking at Oregon dead in the eye there in that first game, but that's for them, and that's still a couple weeks away. Yeah. Like, I know what this meant, and I'm just so happy for my old roommate, Lance Lusk, who played football, O-line, Chris Ripka, old pal, and various other people who are like the proudest of proud Red Raiders, who I haven't talked to in years, but like I remember them. And then one of the first things I think of is their love for Texas Tech and how much it means to them and how much Tech football means to them. And I can only imagine, like, this is the type of thing made me like reach out for the first time in 10 years and go like, hey man, I don't know what the hell's going on in life, but like, dude, congratulations. Like, that's, and yeah, I bet there were hundreds of, if not thousands of, hundreds of thousands of Tech fans that were shedding tears. Sure. And rightfully so. So I have to ask you guys, because we have a guest, and I would love to talk about this more. Yep. But while we're in this moment, tell me about the atmosphere. Because that's what I missed most on, like, when I was sitting there watching the game. I wanted to be there because it came across on TV well, but I know it had to be incredible in person.
We knew this before the game, but this is from Matt Enser, who set us up with an incredible booth. 85,519, the largest crowd to ever be in attendance at a Power 4 football championship game. Now, the Big Ten's got a massive bunch. That's in the Dome, Indianapolis Dome. What is it? RCA Dome.
Georgia, no, Lucas Oil Field.
The one in Georgia, and Atlanta is a big stadium. But the largest.
The Georgia Dome?
Yeah. Well, it's actually the Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah.
But the 85,519, and believe me, I think I remember not every one of them, but it was packed to the gills. I walked up and down from where we were a couple of times to where the press box was, where the writers, et cetera, are, and every single suite that was open, and not all of it, like, let's say 2 or 3 weren't, packed with people inside all of those suites.
With Landman cosplay, all up and down. It was crazy. But I have been to, I don't know how many games, triple digits at this point, and big time Cowboy playoff games. The Cowboys and the Packers, when Aaron Rodgers gutted them, and the Cowboys had that game, right where they wanted, and the emotion of the fans was not 1/10 of what it was. It was shaking the walls in that stadium, and it was so loud. When we were doing the pregame show, we had to stop a couple of times because I couldn't hear you talking over half the stadium that was full just for people running out of the field to warm up.
Yeah, just when the crowd. You want one of my hearing aids? I'll let you have that. Craig, give us one more question or your thoughts. But it was unbelievable. I'm so glad we did it because it was set up perfectly for us, and then we enjoyed the entire day.
Well, I think it's also another good call with our ownership now of like doing something like that, whereas 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we probably just sit at home and watch that game and instead go out there and make it an event as well for us. And so I'm glad y'all did that. I wish I could have been there. I just wanted to experience the atmosphere. I was hoping for a better football game, obviously, but Tech's a juggernaut, and they are – the clear-cut elite of the Big 12. There's no question about that. And now it's time for them to go and improve it on the national level. So we'll see how that goes, but there's going to be a lot of onus on them to kind of change the narrative, quite frankly. Like, they're not just going in there for the Red Raiders, but in a way, as much as I hate making things about leagues all the time, especially with leagues being what they are at this point, they are in so many ways. When you see BYU get absolutely no respect whatsoever the last 2 years from the committee, they do need Texas Tech to go in there and beat Oregon, to like drum up some like, no, our guys can play too and play with the best of the best. And so I think Tech will be carrying the Big 12 flag with them, as well as the masked rider and everything else, all the other bells and whistles and everything. But I'm just really happy for the Tech fans out there. BYU fans, I know it hurts, but look at what all you've accomplished already in such a short amount of time in the Big 12. And that leads me to thinking, for all of the hand-wringing and the death blow that was Texas and Oklahoma leaving, and like, you'll never be anything without us. Well, there may not be national championships right around the corner, but there might be, thanks to Texas Tech. And there might not be this or that. But look at that crowd and tell me that the Big 12's dead.
No.
Like, look at that crowd and tell me that they can't sit there and still put on an event. And like, that to me was like the culmination of the last 3 years of all this realignment, and are we going to exist or are we not? And all the people that helped make it stay intact. Like, to be there for that one had to feel really special for Brett Yormark and all the athletic directors.
It was the perfect melting pot of who played in that game. The two fan bases. You're right. It was absolutely phenomenal. And BYU fans, you were there too. There's no doubt about it. You showed up strong. It's obviously Texas Tech had about a 65 or 70% advantage when it comes to the crowd. Anything else you want to add, Craig?
No, I mean, I think it was a great day for Tech, obviously. I still think it's a positive step forward for BYU, and BYU, you're just getting started. Like, you've only been in the league for 3 years, already playing in the title game, have had 2 10-win seasons, and now you're landing 5-star quarterbacks, and you got Satake with an extension and also this amount of NIL that he'll have and the staff money. So, like, they aren't going anywhere but up. They just need to get the respect thing sorted out a little bit. But you also, and I'll state the obvious, you cannot get blown out twice, no matter who it is to, when you are on that cut line.
Yep.
And you don't have that respect. So
they had a shot.
They had a shot. They had a way to get a ticket, and they couldn't punch that ticket, but they are on the way up. And I think it was a great day for college football. Like, for all the other hand-wringing this weekend, like, that atmosphere, that was college football.
By the way, a note, and we're going to hear just a couple of minutes with Joey McGuire in the locker room after all of the post-game celebration. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips has released a statement about what they did or didn't do. We'll have that for you a little bit later on. Here inside the locker room, a conversation with Texas Tech football coach Joey McGuire.
I remember I'm sitting at a HEB parking lot, 2021. Oh, no, 20. And, of course, we know the story.
Yeah.
You wanted to be the head coach in Waco. And now you're the head coach of the Big 12 champions at Texas Tech. Do you ever reminisce about stuff like that?
Man, I do. I think about it all the time. I'm where I am because of every moment to this moment, and the people that I've been around and the people that I've worked for and learned from. And, I always say I wouldn't be here if I hadn't been there. It really, we bring so much of the stuff that I learned from everybody there. So, man, I'm appreciative of that, but I sure am glad where I'm at. And, man, I love this place.
Kirby Holcutt, you were talking about when they came to Waco in the airport. I was talking to him after the game, and just the way everything came together and the plan. You guys were proactive, not reactive. That doesn't mean it works, but it did.
Yeah, that was one thing that was a big part of that interview whenever you're sitting there and you had so many of the big stakeholders of Dusty Womble and Cody Campbell a part of it. And, man, they said, look, we're going to push the envelope in every which way we can to win. And, man, whenever you do that and you have the people behind you like that, you can really create some stuff. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to, getting the right guys and then making them Red Raiders, making them fall in love with this place.
There was never any kind of at all issue with any kind of jealousy or anything along the way? Did you have to deal with it at all?
No, the one thing I always think whenever you're in the athletic world and then whenever you start talking about, hey, guys, when you get in the real world, real recognizes real. Man, it's hard to say, well, man, David Bailey, I don't know or Romello Hyde or Josh Kelly last year, who was so awesome for us. Like, that's the one thing about athletics. People understand if you're really good. And then whenever you're sitting there talking to these guys and you're saying, look, if you get to the next level, you're going to be a locker room where you're not going to get paid as much as this guy. So you need to understand performance. It's a performance-based. You can't pay people for performance, but it's a performance-based deal of what you've done this year and what you're going to do next year. That's how you're going to, get your NIL stuff.
There's been 1,000 stories written about how you guys put this team together, and I'll see James as I'm walking in, he's walking out, and just his story. From a website guy that loved high school football to now a GM for a Big 12 championship.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. He's the best. And, I think there's a magic between us, that I always tell him, go find the guys, put the roster together and let me create the culture, and I don't step on his toes and he doesn't step on our toes. We've gotten arguments before and, almost some, like as close as you can get yelling matches, but it works that, we trust each other so much.
Joey, they had 90 yards in their first drive.
Yeah.
They had like less than that the rest of the game.
Right.
Plus you forced turnovers. You mentioned that in the postgame, so I don't need to ask you what you thought because you thought they'd give you a big strike early. But your defense just swarms everywhere. They run to the football. As feverish today as they've ever been.
Right. Shield Wood, Rob Green, CJ Ayu, Sarnell Fitch, Jack Teachy, Darcel McBath, Dave Martin, those guys, all the guys on defense, man, they preach and they demand effort. And there's only one way to play this game. When you close your eyes, it's like on defensive football, it's like you walked into a hornet's nest. And that's the way we play defense.
How much do you need this break?
We need to, we really need to, we can get healthy. I mean, we're football banged up, and I think if these guys don't hit for a week and then we figure out when they can go home for Christmas and have a little time with their family, then we'll be a fresher team.
What makes you successful everywhere you've been?
Man, I think I learned a long time ago from Gina Farmer, my first AD, if you put the player first, if every decision's based off of the player and what's good for him and then what's good for the team, you have a great chance to be successful. And, man, I'm a player's coach. I never shy away from that. I love these guys. They hear it all the time. I'll hug them, and they really are stuck with me for the rest of their life.
You mentioned Kalani and BYU, and last question, that the Big 12 is always being like immediately when the game got out of hand, well, BYU doesn't need to be a part of the playoff. They were saying that beforehand.
Right.
Does the conference need more people barking back without getting out of line? Because other conferences seem to be very comfortable with making sure everybody knows how good they are.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we've got to continue doing is putting the facts in front of people, and numbers don't lie. That team beat everybody on their schedule but the fourth-ranked team in the country, and a lot of people can't say that, I think it's really important. I think they deserve to be in, and I hope they are.
Good luck, man. Enjoy it. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, Mike.
That was Joe McGuire post-game with Smokey, and he did not get his wish. BYU is not in the college football playoff. Notre Dame's not in the college football playoff, but 12 other teams are. And the best guy when it comes to breaking down the numbers as to why teams are the way they are is Dave Martu, College Football Matrix. And Dave, when we had you last week and we asked you about Alabama, and you said if they lose the game, you said, hell no, they're 10-3. I don't want to see them in there.
I know.
What did the numbers say? Did the committee finagle something here? Or what happened to put Alabama in?
So I've been on this show enough, and I've talked about the key metrics that the playoff committee has used to make all the decisions for the last 12 years, right? Wins, losses, quality wins, top 25 wins, game control, strength schedule, etc. And so I did a little exercise last night. I took the top 20 final rankings of the last 12 years. Okay? So 240 teams, all the key metrics for each year, and I ran a regression on which was the biggest outlier ranking of the 240 teams ranked in the top 20 in the last 12 years. There was number one, and number two wasn't even a close second. Everything else falls into just about a just little small category, except number 9 Alabama. It is so far out of bounds relative to all the other teams in the final top 20 compared to their final position. So you take that as you want, but they're the number 9 team, but by the numbers that the committee is supposed to use and has been using religiously, this Alabama ranking is the single most subjective ranking of any of the last 240 teams ranked in the final top 20 in the last 12 years.
Did they not check with you first or something? Seriously, Dave, because you have hit this for the most part, week in and week out, year in and year out. I then put up, I believe, I don't know if it was Sunday morning, which blue blood would be the most angry or pissed off or meltdown mode after the release of the rankings, and you responded immediately with Alabama, and then there they were at number 9.
Right. I should have listened to my gut because was it last Monday? So when the previous rankings came out, and remember how they toggled Alabama and Notre Dame, even though everybody won, nothing really changed. And I put something out on Twitter along the lines of, and this was just a gut feeling watching the playoff committee, they changed without reason, right? And so when you change without reason in the numbers, it tells me something is getting set up. And I said, they are preparing for BYU to get beat by Tech. Miami gets moved up to 11 right next to Notre Dame. And the last thing they're going to do is flip-flop them head-to-head and put Miami in at 10. That's what I said last Monday, even though the numbers don't back it up. That was just a gut feeling based on that subjective move that they did 2 weeks ago. So it didn't just happen this weekend. This happened at least last week. And I'm not saying I agree with it, because all we're doing is modeling behavior and projections. Not that any of it's right or wrong, because personally, I want to see the number 2 scoring efficiency offense in Jeremiah Love in the college football playoffs. I think they are one of the top 4 or 5 teams that could have won it all with that running game, that defense, and that offense. So, but that being said, it was also foreseen that this was going to happen. I just am not on board with a 3-loss team that has a bad loss, that lost 2 out of 3, that struggled in the 1 win out of 3 against a team that's under 500 being in the playoff. So, if you thought Alabama was ugly indoors in a heated situation with 7 points and a crappy run game, well, good luck on the plains of Oklahoma with a crappy run game, and it's 20 degrees against that defense, which is better than Georgia's.
Dave, how do they make it look? They took one team from each jar, the sitting home, no conference championship teams, Miami and Notre Dame, and the conference championship blowout losers. They took Alabama and they took Miami, obviously. And then they tried to spin whatever example they have. Now, look, I have no problem with BYU being out because they got blown out twice by Texas Tech, but their game had consequences and Alabama's didn't. And how do they make conference championships mean this, like, not only just mean anything anymore, but mean the same thing for everybody, or at least have stakes, unless you are Indiana, Ohio State, and you're undefeated?
Yeah, I would say that if you want it balanced, then simply say, well, Notre Dame and Oklahoma didn't have to take the physical and mental risk of playing in that game. So if they don't have a risk, why should Alabama, Georgia, BYU, or Texas Tech have a risk? It's simply, look, you can fall, but you can't. If you're in, you can fall, but you can't fall out. Now I don't know how you balance all of that, but that would be, to me, the most fair thing, because not only are you risking a loss, you're risking much more physical injury, the time it takes to prepare, You got to remember, this is also National Signing Day, so everybody's in a championship week is triple burning the candle at every end more than everybody else. So there's huge advantages for a Notre Dame, for a Miami, for an Oklahoma, for an Ole Miss to sit at home and be fat, dumb, and happy, right? Waiting for everybody else to get beat up and hurt themselves. So I think the only way you can do that is simply have it is you can't fall out if you're in at the end of the regular season.
So there's a lot of things that could come from this, plus the Notre Dame saying we're done, right? And we're not even going to play in a bowl game against the BYU. They may go to 14 next year, although they can never get their, together. And then all of a sudden,
no one's ever going to be happy.
No, and they wouldn't be happy. They weren't happy at 4. They weren't happy at 0, and they're not going to be happy at 14 or whatever. And then you have the note about Notre Dame next year. If they're among the top 12 teams, they're in. So they're complaining because they feel like they were left out this year, and they were, and maybe they have a right to feel that way. I think they do. But next year, they're going to be protected even more. And I don't know, man, Dave. So what do you think will be the biggest change, or will they change how they do this starting next year?
This is Cincinnati's fault, for being in the top 4 once in 20 years, and people going, oh, the group of 5 can compete with the top 4 teams. So, yeah, thanks a lot, Fickle. But seriously, there's no line you can go to, right? We argued about when it was at 4, we argued about 3, 4, 5, and 6. If it had gone to 8, we'd argue about 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. It's at 12, so 10, 11, 12, 13, blah, blah, blah. 16, it's going to be the same damn thing. I don't like the bar keep going down, right? I mean, to me, it's like you play your way in. I think the group of 6 is in there because Cincinnati did well, and rightfully so. That was a really good football team, offensively and defensively. It was one of the 12 best teams in college football. If you're not one of the 12 best, championship game or not, you're out. That's it, right? It's just 12 best, no inclusions, anything like that. If Notre Dame can be in automatically in the top 12, well, then everybody else certainly as hell should be as well. Whether it's BYU or Baylor or North Texas, you name it, you're in the top 12, you're in. You play your way in, you play your way out. Championship game, no championship game, final top 12, and that's it. Shut the up.
Yeah.
Dave, do you think that this will push them towards 16? Like, they were going to do that anyway, but do you think it pushes it, like all this pushes it forward because now you're going to have Notre Dame, which has considerable political weight? They help build this thing too. So the calls coming from inside the house when they're like, this system is stupid. You're like, well, you built it. I mean, but do you think this pushes it towards 16 with whoever they figure out how to get those teams in?
Right. It's like, well, it's going to help them with whatever agenda they want. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, ultimately, whether it's this or something else, they'll go, oh, look, we have to go to 16 because of what happened in Notre Dame, even though we all know that it was probably going to 16 bloody 4 years ago or the day this was announced, So I wish, like a lot of things, it would stop. I am tired of the incessant, insufferable, inconsistent change every single year. NIL, National Signing Day, the playoffs, this, that. Get us a schedule, set the bar, and at least let it play out for a decade like we have before upsetting the apple cart every 6 months. It is infuriatingly tiresome.
I love the way you said it. I do. You couldn't have said it any better. I think more people are worn out by just the constant, like, here are the rules, play by them. You know who does that? The FCS, Division III. They set how they set it up. I know they do. They've set up the playoffs. They've added a few more teams to it along the way, but there are certain guidelines. This is how you get in. Shut up if you're not in it. That means you didn't do your job.
Yep.
Was there any, in order, who got screwed the most? when the final standings were released?
Notre Dame.
Okay.
Notre Dame. Yeah. Just I don't have any ifs, ands, or buts about that. The way they played down the stretch, their overall defense and offensive scoring efficiency adjusted for opponent. I just think that they paid the penalty more than anybody else. BYU had a great run, but their margin of loss in 2 games, albeit to the same team, was difficult there. That's why I was surprised with Alabama too, dude. They got beat by the max, and a lot of people don't realize this is the maximum amount of margin of victory for playoff committee rankings is 21 points. That's the limit. Alabama hit the bar, right? I mean, they basically got run ruled on this thing. They couldn't get beat any worse in a championship game. So it just feels like everybody got punished for stuff that occurred, and possibly rightfully so, except, like I said, the biggest outlier of 240 teams in the last 12 years is this number 9 Alabama team. They played some great football, but overall they had a chance to play their way in, and I felt they played their way out, bottom line.
Dave, thank you very much for taking us through this journey throughout the last, 4 to 5 weeks, and helping us understand it each week, no matter what maybe the narrative was or what everyone thought. You kind of always gave us this is how it works. Well, the Alabama exception, but along the way, we appreciate the knowledge. Thank you, buddy. Have a great week.
Absolutely, sir. Don't be a stranger. You know where I'm at. I'll jump on with you guys anytime.
And email me when you get a chance, because I know you've been writing some stuff, and I'll get that deal out for the high school kids and coaches too, as soon as you let me know. All right?
Yep. All right. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Too. College Football Matrix. Hey, by the way, how about this quote from Kenny Dillingham on transferring with Sam Leavitt? The adults were the people who started this mess, and now people try to blame the kids. This isn't a kid's problem. Every kid that transfers, every kid that leaves, this isn't a kid problem. This is an adult's mess.
Well, let's come back and talk about what happened with that whole situation.
Yeah, we will. We'll come back with some college football notes, administrative notes in college football, and yes, the portal. That and more, and this is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Ted Teague, CEO, and also general manager with the dealership, rolling towards the holidays and, of course, the start of a year. And so with that, numerous incentives on what they have when it comes to Jeep, Grand Cherokee, Jeep, Wagoneer, anything, Ram trucks, and of course also with what they have when it comes to the pre-owned vehicle and the lot that they have that's loaded with cars that have been, traded in for something new. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, with incentives and discounts and more, and some of them are just absolutely fantastic when you get discounts as far as money off, 0% APR financing, and on top of that, even cash back. Just ask, of course, when you get there. David Gray is the sales manager, Ted Teague, the CEO and general manager, as they roll into the rest of December at Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Over 30% of adults struggle with chronic foot and joint pain, and many face mobility limitations as they age. But a revolutionary Comfort First slipper has taken the wellness world by storm. Try Cloud Slides and feel you are walking on the clouds. Cloud Slides.
Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code SPORTS365 to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code SPORTS365. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks. Win money. Must be 18 and up, 19 and up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 and up, and in Colorado for some games, 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and must be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Here we go, this 4 o'clock hour. David Smoak along with Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. This is 365 Sports. And just like in the last 5 to 10 minutes, it's been an event going on over at the Herd Center on campus. Baylor introducing their new director of athletics, Doug McNamee, who was once in Baylor Athletics administration. He's unbelievable, his history when it comes to fundraising. We will have a chance at some point to sit down with Doug. He's being introduced with a press conference. In fact, right now, about a mile and a half from here. We've known him for quite some time. Paul, you've known him. I've played golf with him, but I still wait to see how this unfolds. But this is absolutely, without question, a unique hire.
It's very unique. And full disclosure, Doug and I are very good friends. We've been friends for a very long time. I don't think you'll have a problem with me sharing opinions about, like things I disagree with him on, that moves that they make. But And I say this with Doug, none of us knew that, like, when we saw the rumors about it, like, online, none of us who are friends with Doug really knew that he was a candidate for this job to the level he didn't let anybody know. So I have no inside information on it. I think that for Baylor and for what they need at the time, Doug's a really unique choice because in a good way, his focus is on Baylor. He's a Baylor lifer. I mean, he was a student basketball manager when he was in school. Like, he loves Baylor. He's Baylor. Like, he bleeds green and gold in every single way. He's worked a ton of different jobs in the athletic department. He's been outside that in the corporate world at Magnolia and at Field Extreme. So he's kind of got what the people look for in ADs now. So it's a very interesting hire. He has a lot ahead of him, and I wish him the best of luck. I'm very, very happy for my friend.
I mean, I think it's important for them right now to have somebody who has their best interest at heart. Mac Rose is not a Baylor guy. He had good intentions, but I do think it's, especially at a time like this, very imperative to have somebody who actually does care and bleed your school colors in their situation in particular. And I think you've even said something during the commercial break where his insight as a fan also can play into his role as an athletic director from that perspective. And I think he also would then be well aware, unlike others who come in and try to change things the way they want them, of like things he could change back and immediately win everybody over in like a week's time. Like change the uniforms back, change the tailgating back, and like tweak some other things, and we're good to go. But those two decisions right there would be like monumentally huge decisions for the fan base that's just craving just some stuff to hold on to that they love. And he's definitely somebody that comes from a period where they had a lot of success. Fundraising, as you said, he's one of those outside the box hires that probably never, ever gets this job otherwise, but in this era he does. So I think it's like any other coaching job we've talked about. I guess Tom Fornelli, as CBS Sports coined this, of like, looks like a good hire. I don't know if it'll work out or not. Like I'm going to rob that from him for this segment, because that is probably the best way to look at this. It's like, seems like a good hire. I have no idea if it's going to work out or not, but I'm very intrigued by whether it does or not, and I think it's critical that it does for them.
Otherwise, another decade of just languishing.
Otherwise, you're on a downward spiral that I don't know you recover from.
Here, no one questions what he is as far as what matters to him. He'll also, by the way, no matter who you are, will remember you, or you're important to him. That's one of the things I always remember about Doug. Even though, he is Baylor, this and that. And sometimes you wonder, do they really need that, or do they need somebody completely outside the box? Well, that's what Mac wants.
I think right now they need somebody who has their best interest in mind.
So here's Scott Drew. When the announcement became official, an absolute grand slam hire. He's one of Baylor and Waco's own, someone who knows the importance and great opportunity Baylor has as the nation's largest Baptist university, understanding connections in the business world, making him an ideal choice to lead Baylor athletics in the evolving collegiate athletics landscape. I know for a fact, because I spoke with a couple of different people on the way home from the game on Saturday, and somebody who was right in the middle of all this, that Scott Drew took all of whatever collateral he had and pushed those chips all in to back this hire of Doug McNamee. Like Doug McNamee, all of whatever he had, pushed him in the middle of a poker table and said, this is who I think we should hire. This is who I want us to hire. I think this is the right hire.
When Scott Drew needed a voice in the athletic department of, we have to get more people in the stadium. We have to start moving towards a situation where Baylor basketball has a home court advantage, which in the Farrell Center was dubious at best. Because of the setup of the stadium, the way that they did things. Doug was one of those biggest advocates. So they have a great relationship. And of course, Doug also he was the president of Magnolia. Here's a trivia fact, the first episode of Fixer Upper, Doug and his wife, Lacey, that was them. They are very close with the Gaineses. That's a good thing for Baylor, that your most famous alum, and who's already a big, time supporter of it, the athletic director is, they've already broken bread before all this for a very long time.
All right, but can you also make decisions eventually on what coaches should come and go?
I think so. I think so.
We think so, but we'll see.
But also, he was very instrumental in Matt Rule's transition here and helping kind of clean out the things that weren't going to work from the old regime to the Matt Rule regime. So all those things were things that Doug did. So people don't know a lot about him. And that's probably by design a little bit, but now they will. And I'm very interested to see, what he tackles first in this new gig.
Former Baylor and now Liberty Athletic Director Ian McCall sent this text to me. Doug McNamee will do a great job. Smart, business savvy, great relationships at Baylor and Waco. Instrumental in building our fan and donor base when we moved into McLean Stadium, which was the transition eventually in 2014. Part of the leadership team during the successful run of what Baylor had when it came to wins and losses across the board in athletics. So there we are with that.
Bring back old gold.
Yep.
That's my one request. I have no dog in the fight, but bring back old gold.
Yeah.
I actually like the broad, everybody on the same page. Not everybody's like, I've got Under Armour green and yellow, and I've got Reebok green and yellow, and I've got Nike green and yellow. It was just a mess when I first got here and saw all the different uniforms. So I liked the uniformity of it, but you went from having the coolest you were known for cool uniforms, and you went like the complete opposite direction of that, like banana yellow. Like I just bring back the cool, man.
The fans all hate.
Oh, that fans despise. Yes, like I think it's just, but it's your official school color. It is, but you don't have to be hard and fast, like hard and fast with this thing.
Well, you can also. You're in charge of what the official school color is at the school.
True, yeah. Well, that's just one thing he could do that would be a major step for the tailgating, beer sales, like all that stuff.
I think you'll see him make decisions quickly on things that are part of the atmosphere. Here's another administrator. There will be critics of this hire, but he will eventually win them over. He will build a good NIL model, which, of course, is critical. He has a pretty big mess on his hands, but it will take a little bit of while. Baylor, of course, in athletics in many ways across the board are not as successful as they've been. Let's not forget that, too, other than just healing what is a fractured fan base at this particular time.
Well, they're fractured because of all the losing.
No, yeah.
I mean, they were fractured because of a scandal right before that. But we all know if they just win, that all heals itself. But they have lost a lot, and that's fractured it. So we got a couple things we need to get to here.
Yeah, okay. So what else do we have? The Jim Phillips, I mentioned this, the ACC commissioner, when Notre Dame not happy. And their Notre Dame's athletic director calling out the ACC and saying that irreparable damage or whatever the quote was. Jim Phillips. Let me get it back up here to you.
Jim, we've got Pete Bavacqua on line one.
Yeah. This sounds like that Jim Phillips, is, with all due respect, may have peed down his leg. The University of Notre Dame is an incredibly valued member of the ACC, and there is tremendous respect and appreciation for the entire situation, them being left out. With that said, when it comes to football, we have a responsibility to support and advocate for all 17 of our football playing member institutions. And I stand behind our conference efforts to do just that leading up to the College Football Playoff Committee selections on Sunday. At no time was it suggested by the ACC that Notre Dame was not worthy of candidate inclusion in the field. We're thrilled for the University of Miami while also understanding and appreciating the significant disappointment of the Notre Dame players, coaches, and the program. So he did say we have to have the back of our guys who are playing football in our conference, and then also then pivoted with that at the end.
I actually think he covered all his bases. I mean, Notre Dame's going to read that a certain way and still be pissed at how they feel like they were perceived or, I guess, not argued for the way that another school was. But he also makes a point to say football playing schools, and so he's technically right on that. So this is one where I think he probably said about as reasonable of a thing as he could say, but it is going to look like people will read the first part and be like, he's kowtowing to the Irish already. The people will read the second part and go, we're going to screw this conference over. They're going to be lucky they even had so we'll see what happens tomorrow with the whole press conference thing with Notre Dame.
Now, what I will say is he's saying at no time did they do that. They never put Miami's resume up against Alabama's.
Not Alabama, but Notre Dame.
Yeah, but I mean, they didn't. So,
without using the logos.
Yeah, and all this, like the blind resume thing, it was about Notre Dame. They replayed, ESPN replayed the Miami Notre Dame game on the network over and over again. ESPN also does not have a financial relationship with Notre Dame the same way that everybody else does.
And they would love for Notre Dame to go join the SEC or something like that. Yeah.
So that there's all these things. And so I hear all this and I'm harking back to Jim Phillips just 2 years ago. And the poor guy finds himself in these situations. But FSU in 2023, this is a sham. The ACC screwed us. ESPN's against us. Our relationship with these entities is forever changed. We're suing. Notre Dame, this is a sham. The ACC is against us.
Yeah.
ESPN's against us. Our relationship with these entities are forever changed. And I said we're suing. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I do have a feeling Pete Bavacqua was going to throw out the words general counsel in this press conference tomorrow. And, I don't think it's the best look. I don't think it's the court of public opinion or actual decisions are going to help you in this.
When Florida State, who is a conference-playing football team, feels like you did not have their back, like you see Sankey or Petiti, even Yormark has been fighting for the Big 12, then you wonder about where his future is, even though he's been there for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's been a bungled couple of years for the ACC. The first thing they should be doing is announcing their new championship scenarios for next year, where immediately it's the top two highest ranked teams get to play for the conference championship. That's what they should be. That should be announced like today after watching Duke and Virginia. It'd be two highest rated CFP teams play for our championship if there's not, or if there is like this tiebreaker. And I'm sure that's eventually what it got to, but like it should just be that clear cut. That way you get your best team in, regardless of the fourth tiebreaker leading to Duke getting in. Congrats to Duke, by the way. Like, talk about teams taking things for granted, and I'm sure we'll ask our next guest about some of these bowl opt-outs and everything, but for Duke to go in the ACC, that's a huge deal for the Blue Devils. So
yeah, they look good. They finally, the quarterback who they put such an investment in, Mensa led them down the field, and then, of course, the overtime, and then the pick from Chandler Morris that ended the game.
They tried to throw that game away on multiple occasions. Looked like they were going to, but yeah, eventually Morris with the pick and Blue Devils win. But we'll have more of the week to talk about stuff like that.
Is Phil on? Is he in the portal? Can we just go straight to him?
Yeah, we can.
Ready? You want to break?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll break a thing. Okay.
So let's move Sam Leavitt to tomorrow, I guess, as well.
Sam Leavitt, Arizona State, quarterback. We'll get into that tomorrow. Plus, we do have Brett McMurphy to kind of help wrap up all the crazy along with what we have with our other guests tomorrow. And this is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com with Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners who built a business that's been a decade. They opened the doors, and their promise to you was two things. One, they will find and have the best imaging machine possible for your body to have an MRI. Whether it's on a ligament, a muscle, whether it's your leg or your back or whatever it is, your knee, they will make sure you have the best evidence of what your doctor needs to do moving forward, whether it's more physical therapy or is it possibly surgery or, well, wait a minute, we don't really see anything that's bad. Well, that's good too. And then they also were not going to charge you a lot. An average MRI is probably around $1,100, depends on where you live, but overall the average is a little over $1,000. Theirs is $497 every single time, never more. And I would know because I had 4 MRIs inside their great state-of-the-art imaging machine. They have great staff of techs and specialists and more. $497 every single time and evidence every single time at IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in Waco.
The Wrap Up the Year sales event means big savings at Allen Samuels in Waco. 0% APR on new Ram 1500. Or how about combined bonus cash allowance of $8,000 on select 2025 Jeep Wranglers. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Have you heard of the new IRA? The new IRA, Insured Retirement Advantage, is a solution for high-income individuals and business owners who want to grow and protect their wealth without locking up capital or taking unnecessary risks. If you're an asset manager or a licensed insurance agent looking to provide your clients with guaranteed tax-free retirement income and legacy protection, the new IRA Insured Retirement Advantage is an option you need to know more about and is only available exclusively from North Star Funding Partners. For more information, go to northstarfundingpartners.com and tell them 365 Sports sent you.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
This is Richard Carr, and it's hard to believe, but 2025 marks our 26th year in the car business. I want to thank you for your support over the last 26 years. As a locally owned business, our customers in Central Texas community are also friends and neighbors. If you haven't been by lately, I invite you to come in and experience our amazing lineup of Buick, GMC, and Cadillac vehicles. Our goal is to make you feel like more than just a customer, but as a valued neighbor. Let us show you why we are people you can count on at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Here we go, the 5 o'clock hour, and Phil Bennett. That's a beautiful background. Are you on the coast somewhere?
I'm in Florida. I'm in watercolor Florida.
You can tell that gorgeous. Golly, that looks great. Good to see you, man. Good. Thank you for joining us. So
Sounds like you've got it going today.
Oh, Phil. Man, you're probably glad you're not in the middle of all this mess as a coach with all the things that are going on. So let's start with, what do you want to start with, guys? The opt-outs? You want to, or the coaching carousel, or the playoff itself?
I'm curious his thoughts on some of the coaching hires, particularly Matt Campbell to Penn State. Hire, I think they cut him. It probably made Phil a couple weeks ago, but it dragged out a little bit. What do you think about the fit of Matt Campbell and what he's been able to do at Iowa State? They're mad at 8-4 this year. They thought they could have been better moving on to Penn State.
Matt has done an outstanding job at Iowa State, and he's been loyal to him. He could have left at least 3 or 4 times. And I think when Kraft got back to him the second time, I think Matt was able to get it on his terms. And I think it was time for him to go. And I think that Penn State got him a hell of a football coach.
What did you think of Texas Tech's ascent to the mountaintop there on Saturday, Phil? I mean, you were around them, and I'm sure you know a bunch of Red Raiders and what that meant to them on Saturday. Don't know what the rest holds, but that's a pinnacle moment for that athletic department.
Well, you know, Craig, I've got a son-in-law that's the ultimate Red Raider. Grew up in Lubbock, and I always kid him. I said, you had to suffer through Baylor kicking Tech's ass all those years in AT&T, except for once during that time. And I said it has to feel good to walk out of there with a win like that. And it was very impressive. I thought that everything that you want in a football team, I think they can do. If their quarterback stays healthy, I think their receivers are good, their line's good, and defensively they are really good. So I was excited for them.
I kept seeing guys that to kind of analyze tape, even during the game, they'd go back and replay something. How good the second level, obviously the defensive line is fantastic. They had an interception, 2 picks. Rodriguez was everywhere, 13 tackles. But how the second layer of their defense, Phil, has such great spacing, but yet coverage. What do you see from them?
Well, first of all, they're athletic. Rodriguez reminds me of Eddie Lackey. Eddie could run a low 4.5, and they ran. I don't know if you remember the play, but BYU ran like a wheel with a back, and then one time they put a skill guy in the backfield, and Rodriguez was running with him step for step, and they just play fast. I think the whole team is playing with great confidence, and it's pretty damn obvious that they expect to win.
They appear to not need a lot of coaching during games. Like sometimes you see coaches just kind of having to overcoach a team. They had that rough first drive where BYU threw out the kitchen sink. And then after that, watching the game, being there, it didn't seem like they needed to be told what they missed on that first drive.
I think you're probably right, Paul, because, once they get in their groove, I was always like this. If we were playing well, there's not a lot of talk, and they didn't have to correct a lot. It was obvious they had a beat on what they wanted to do on both sides of the ball. What I think a lot of people friends of mine in coaching, what they didn't understand about Tech is how skillful they are on offense. The little running back, number 8, Morton's accuracy, the receivers. I mean, that tight end's first touchdown catch was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it was 40-something yards, great throw, great catch. they've got quite a few playmakers.
So there wasn't a ton of games, obviously. It's just championship weekend out there. But of the other games, I mean, Indiana, Ohio State. Indiana, coach, the Big Ten champions taking down the Buckeyes. Talk about some defense and some coaching. I mean, your thoughts on how quickly Cignetti's gotten them here.
Those kids. I mean, defensively, I thought Ohio State was really good defensive, but there's no doubt Indiana was better than them that night. I mean, Indiana's defense was everywhere. And then the quarterback made some of the most accurate number 80, and what I don't know if people realize this, but Craig, they lost their best receiver the first quarter of the game. And then their tight ends and their other receivers stepped up and played lights out. And, and Cignetti has really, that somebody said, that's a Bill Snyder type of rebuild. And let me tell you something. I don't know if anybody has ever done it as fast as what they've done there.
Yeah, Bill Snyder will still be perhaps the greatest, not renovator, because there was nothing to renovate, builder ever, but Cignetti's got to be right, no question. 1A and 1B. Their offense gets a lot of credit. Mendoza, very accurate. He doesn't always put up 350 yards, but that throw, Phil, he made on 3rd and 6 or 8 to keep that drive alive. They didn't score, but they put more time off the clock or took more. The clutch, how many times do we see coaches go for not playing to lose rather than make the play? Do we?
I think that one of the things that's happened with them is everybody has Cignetti's confidence. And it's all, and you can just see it. Nobody's afraid to make a play.
Phil, the opt-outs of bowl games for Notre Dame, they feel that they were screwed out of the playoff. I don't think many people think that they weren't, except for maybe Alabama, who got their spot. But what would you say as a coach to players in Notre Dame's specific situation, because some of the other ones are different because of coaching changes?
I think number one, Paul, you got in a situation where football is evolving. I think without question, this has to be the last year of championship games because, of what happens with the game, the perception of you got better, you don't deserve. I think Notre Dame was caught up with numbers. We've been there. In 14, we went from, I think, 4 to 6, and a team that we beat got moved ahead of us. And, of course, Ohio State went from 6 to 4. So it's not the first time it's happened, but also, because it's Notre Dame, everybody wants to point the finger. The truth of the matter is, the next thing they'll change, there will be no non-power fives in it. If we're just truly honest, Tulane and James Madison, you should have Notre Dame and BYU in there. That's if you want to have a true playoff. And I think you're going to see that sooner than later.
God, imagine how much of the screaming and hand-wringing would be to have eliminated from the last 24 hours if those two made it in and it wasn't the two that did. So what do you think of just, I guess, the guys who have decided the bowl games? Are you the same opinion that those are evolving as well? Do you think those stick around in their current form, or do you think it's almost inevitable that that's also going to be changing and going to a different schedule or a different a way of doing things?
I think they've got to, as I said, as we evolve, Craig, I think without question, they've got to look at the bowls, maybe change the timing, get them done earlier and make them where you don't have the month of December. I myself, traditionally, I don't want to see the bowls go because we're probably fixing to go to maybe 12 or 16 teams. Everybody else, there's things to do. I thought what Sark said about bowls are good, and they are good, and they help do a lot of things. They raise money, and it's great for college football. I don't want to see them go away, but they need a new calendar.
What was your first thought when you saw Notre Dame was saying, "Screw this, we're not playing"?
You know, I understand their frustration. Um, I really do, and they have really progressed as a football team. And could they have played in there? Absolutely. I mean, but it was head to head. You know, Miami. If it was between those two, like Hunter Urick said it was, I'm going with Miami because Miami beat them, and that's one of the things they look at. I don't like it. You know, I wish they would have. I wish the people would have worked with them to get a great game. I mean, it might have been Notre Dame, Michigan, or maybe Notre Dame, Texas would have been a great game. I think there could have been some attractive games out there had they worked at it.
It would have been Notre Dame and BYU.
That would have been. Hey, the Mormons against the Catholics.
Yeah, well, yeah, and two teams that were right there on the edge until the end. So I don't know. I think I sent you a text. I don't remember, but today Baylor introduced Doug McNamee, who was on staff when you were there.
I know Doug.
He is the new AD, a very unique, interesting hire. Your thoughts about it?
Well, I think number one, they needed somebody that had been there. And, you know, I read something that Ian said. Ian talked about his fundraising being in the I think it's a good hire, especially right now. I think it's somebody that knows Baylor. They've been involved when it was good. They've been a little bit through the controversy. And I think he's a guy that can come in and really help them get back on track.
You brought up Sark. I'll bring it up again with you. But like he said, listen, we're disappointed that he was campaigning for his team as he should. And then eventually the numbers played out. Your thoughts about that? Because it should be a reward. And I thought whatever I disagreed with, even though I understood him fighting for his team, I love that comment, as you mentioned earlier today.
Absolutely. I thought it was truthful. You know, he's experienced it. He's been a player and a coach. And these bowls are exciting. They're fun, you know, and these kids deserve a time to go and go to a city and instead of staying one night, spend 3 or 4 days. It's like Craig was saying, though, I think they got to really be careful with the timing aspect of it.
So that background with that sunset and where you are, we appreciate you giving us extra effort like you always do. It's great to have you on. And thank you for your time. Enjoy it. I'm headed down to the east coast of Florida Thursday morning to see my brother, so I look forward to it.
Well, good. You'll enjoy it. I sort of did this as a 70th birthday gift, and my wife and I, we had a great time. It's been a blast.
It is that birthday time for you coming up. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Hey,
thank you, guys. Right,
he's
bye-bye.
2 hours from Tallahassee. Go get in their ass, Phil. Tell him that.
There we are.
I need his help.
Phil Bennett, 44 years in the coaching business of college football and also just greatness on Mondays as he kind of helps us understand a little bit of the coaching carousel, football, et cetera, and also so much more. So, by the way,
I'll say this about Phil. I think he's a great example of somebody who just evolves and understands there's evolution to things. And it's not, and like, that's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier. It's like, it might not be the way that you liked it or the way that you grew up with it or the way that you wanted it, but it is what it is. And you roll with the punches. And I think that's probably why you have a long career like he does, because you just deal with stuff and you just keep rolling with it. And that's what everybody's going to have to do in this industry to keep finding success.
A couple of quotes. One quote from Doug McNamee from today, again, was the revenue side, which remains his passion. One of the things he said was game day experience, which we talked about, which has been the problem is the football team. That's it. I know, but there's a lot of other extracurricular peripheral things that have gotten people sideways, and I think Doug has recognized that, and we'll try to fix that pretty quickly.
But there's plenty of mediocre football teams that have great game day experience. So, like, that's not the only reason. It's the biggest reason, but to make that the reason that's not fair to the actual reason.
No, and I think I don't really have a real solid opinion on the tailgating scene because I'm never a part of it. Like, I walk to the stadium and I walk back from the stadium, and I don't dabble in the tailgating's not really anywhere that I'm walking. Like the half mile to the stadium, there's no tailgating going on practically other than next door. But it's all over here. So I can't really speak on it, but I know a lot of people who do absorb it all have not enjoyed whatever changes have been made or how the scene's been. And it's been on a downward spiral. So I think, the tailgating scene, he'll make 1 million fans right away. The uniforms, I think he'd make 2 million fans right away. There's some just logical things that you can do or evolve and just tweak that you make your own or whatever that are just no-brainers to me that would make you wildly successful right out of the gates. But I know it's a lot on his plate, and the money is a big part of his job for sure. So it seems like they'll be in good hands in that regard, but there's a lot of work to do with that athletic department right now.
Yeah, there is many different things. They need to go dig deep into some of them, and some of them are pretty obvious right there on ground level. We have not mentioned Brandon Rowe today, Garrett Ross today. I think we maybe did a little bit Andrew Valade because of what they all did. Not Brandon. He opted out on Saturday. Just kidding. He had family requirements. And then also Logan Bagesi were all there. We appreciate what you guys do every single day when we cross that 70,000 subscriber threshold. Tomorrow, I do know we have Shahan Jararaja and Brett McMurphy will join us. Not sure about Ari Temkin, but we'll have, of course, everything lined up and still dig through what we see now, what's going on in college football.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Sam Leavitt, and there's a ton of other things.
Entering the portal.
Coaching carousel, and Leavitt's entering the portal officially, but we need to talk about just what that means for Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham's response to that. He's handled it about as well as you could have, and I think he's a guy who's just like, it sucks, but it's what we have. Well, and we all agree it needs to be better, but nobody knows who to go to make it better because there is nobody to go to. There's 5 guys you need to go to, or really 2, and they don't even agree on everything. And really, they're only out for themselves. So that's the mess you find. If you could just go, hey, leader, hey, guy that makes the final call, this is what we need. It'd been done 5 years ago.
Yep.
But you're who is it? It's not Greg Sankey for all of college football or Jim Phillips or whoever. Yeah.
The portal giveth, the portal taketh away.
Hey, very true. Michigan State said, hey, we had him first.
Yeah, I would love to see Mack Brown and Nick Saban be a part of a 3-man decision-making college football czarship. But again, that's asking for too much. Real quick, Kurt Signetti, Mike Elko, Joey McGuire, and Clark Lee all are the finalists for the George Munger Coach of the Year award, which that's a hell of a list right there to be a part of the finalists. When we come back, we'll have Paul Catalina's top 5. We'll spin the wheel. We'll have quizzes and poll results. Man, we appreciate you being a part of today's show, and this is 365 Sports.
Welcome, guys. You're at the 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company tasting room here. So we're located in basically central Colorado in the Rocky Mountains. Our 2 flagship whiskeys are our rye whiskey and our bourbon.
10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company, Colorado.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports. Look, it's 17 days until Christmas. You got to get those gifts for the loved one in your life. Flagandanthem.com. You will love the way their clothes look and feel. Please go to flagandanthem.com and make someone's Christmas dreams come true. I don't know if that's their official slogan, but I don't think they'll mind it. I don't think they will. Top 5 reasons Notre Dame is wrong. And let me preface this by saying, Notre Dame, I've lived this as a fan of the school very recently, which is why I'm going to tell you, number 5, this did not work out for FSU. Yes, they did not opt out of a bowl game, but they pretty much did. Every single starter who mattered that could have played in that game against a very good Georgia team did not. None of them did. And FSU got splayed across the field like Vecna tore them apart in Stranger Things. And they earned that by not showing up and going. Now, you could say it's a meaningless bowl game, and they had to go because it was part of the New Year's Six at the time of the 4-team playoff. Couldn't turn down that money, but it just sent the wrong message throughout the locker room and the team and started FSU down a path that they have yet to recover from culturally. Number 4, you already have a free pass that no one else does. The fact that it bit you this year is not anybody's true fault other than the way that the system was set up. And you have to maybe have a broader picture of, oh, dear God, we got screwed. You're Notre Dame. You live life in the free pass lane, the blue blood lane. No one's going to be sympathetic for you while you have an absolutely legitimate gripe. Your gripe needs to be with Greg Sankey and the SEC and the propaganda that they have done and with the way the playoff committee does things. But blaming the ACC, blaming all this other stuff is not really where the focus is. And part of the thing is that the ACC has such a convoluted tiebreaker because you made them take Stanford and Cal and make their conference so damn big that not enough people play each other. That was you who did that. You did it. You, not a football member. You did that. Number 3, I alluded to this earlier, locker room culture. When you don't get your way and the message is, let's take our ball and go home, that really, really is tough to come back from. I love Marcus Freeman. I think he's one of the top 5 best coaches in the entire country. But by getting on board with this, you plant a seed that you may not be able to stop from spreading across the locker room. Now, look, you can maybe plant a seed of righteous indignation that propels you into the playoff next year, which at this point will likely be 16 teams now, so that this is all over and we don't have to worry about this from you. But you are complaining about something that may not happen again. And if your locker room is still, well, everybody's against us, that's not a good way to build positive vibes going forward. Ask a team that you played last year that went 2-10 and then 5-7. It's difficult to come back from. Number 2, offer solutions and not shortcuts. Pete Bavacqua's already said that they are guaranteed at 10-2 to be in the next round of the playoff negotiations. So what are we talking about here? What are we even talking about if you have already signed a memorandum of understanding heading this off at the pass? Yes, the bowl system needs to be revamped. And yes, you are the canary in the coal mine of revamping it, along with some others like Kansas State and Iowa State, but they're opting out for completely different reasons that mostly just apply to the functionality of a team whose players will all be in the transfer portal come tomorrow. Because of the way the rules are set up, they've got a 3-week head start on everybody else. So what are we even talking about here? Offer solutions. Find a way to fix the bowl system. Find a way to fix it to where it works for everybody. But once again, this team feels like they're singled out, and it's a big, powerful team, and they will act in only their self-interest. Damn the torpedoes going straight out. That's not going to help you, and it's not going to help anybody. Believe you me, you think it will, you think you swing it around and everybody's going to be like, ooh, hey. You're already living on easy street compared to other teams. Don't forget that. And number 1, and I cannot say this enough, you helped build this. Your AD at the time, it's that guy, Jack Swarbrick, helped build it with the assumption that 10-2 gets you in automatically, but with none of the foresight to figure out, like the SEC didn't, like the Big 12 didn't, like everybody didn't, that sports is fluid and sometimes things that you don't predict happen. For example, that the ACC has a terrible convoluted tiebreaker system that would leave their best team out of the championship game, thereby giving a 5-loss team a chance to become the conference champion, of which non-conference mattered none to that because it's a conference championship game. Duke did not beat an FBS non-conference team on their schedule this year, yet they were in the championship game. Maybe, just maybe, you need to tweak that formula a bit so someone like Miami is not left out of it and hoping for the good nature of the committee. Miami, again, a team that you lost to. Now, should you have been out of the playoff? No. Alabama should have been out But Alabama and BYU had different circumstances, and the conference game counted different things for those two teams. So if BYU is out, then Alabama should have been out, and you should have been in. Or they both should have been in, and you and Miami should both be out. That's the nature of the thing. But you helped build this. And by guaranteeing the top 5 highest ranked conference champions get in, well, you're not in a conference. The ACC was not going to have a top 5 ranked conference champion. When the Pac-12 went away, and that wasn't a Power 5 conference anymore, and you had 4 power conferences, and one was a dud, you automatically thought that would give you a spot. However, since you can't be a conference champion, and you didn't think that in the second goddamn year that this might happen, this is your fault. You helped build it. It's a 1-year thing. And why teams who get screwed in a year go about like Texas and some of the SEC teams, and now Notre Dame going, the whole thing is a scam and we have to do it. You built it. You voted for it. You needed the group of 6 teams support to do this. Otherwise, you would have had to have a conversation that you really want to have, but you won't say out loud because you don't want them to be a part of it. So just admit that you don't want them to be a part of it and move on, and let's have a real vote about how everybody really feels. But Notre Dame, you helped build this. You drove this car into this parking space, so you need to live with it. It's time for the carnival. Here we go. Favorite sports documentary or TV series?
Oh man, that's pretty low. I mean, the one I'd say growing up was Hoop Dreams. Because that was cutting edge at the time. There's been so many though. Like, I mean, you could do ESPN 30 for 30s by themselves.
Oh, 20, yeah.
So without wandering down that path, where I watched a few and enjoyed them, I'll say Hoop Dreams. I guess because that was the first one.
Hoop Dreams is a fantastic. And
it's like a real reality like presentation too. It's not like let's manufacture this drama over here. It's like it just kind of happens because these two, I believe it's 2 potential college basketball players, high school stars in Chicago. There's enough drama in their own lives.
I think it's the college football playoff Tuesday release. Remember White Shadow? Did y'all ever watch that series? Mm-hmm. That was cool. I don't remember too many like series on TV sports wise that I really was ever like locked in on. But man, you could go, like you said, the 30 for 30s, et cetera. E60 on ESPN's got a ton of them.
I'll throw one out there. If it's a sports TV series, I'm going to say that's not a documentary. Far from it. Is Brockmire with Hank Azaria as a very disgraced MLB announcer who finds his wife cheating on him like right before a game, and then he like gets drunk and breaks down, and then he has to like go to the minor leagues and work his way back up. And it is absolutely ridiculous hilarious.
Called Brockmire?
It's called Brockmire. Yeah. It's on Netflix now. And it's Hank Azaria invented the character for just a Funny or Die sketch a few years back. And then eventually they got it done into a series. But as a sports TV show, it is why I love Ted Lasso as well. But Brockmire is so unique and so funny.
There was a couple of big offensive linemen whose dad played at Texas, but it's Brockmire, but not that. Okay. All right. The quizzes.
Saquon Barkley's iconic reverse hurdle went viral in November 24, but which cornerback did Barkley leap over in his unforgettable play?
Immediately reminds me, remember Larry Centers leaping over Larry Brown?
Yeah.
That when he was with the Cardinals? I don't know who that would be.
I don't think anybody knows because everybody's watching Saquon.
Yeah. The choices are Patrick Surtain II, Jerry Jones, Sauce Gardner, and A.J. Terrell. You know what? I don't
think it would be Surtain. He would have made contact.
I have no idea, and I'm trying to even picture it in my head, and I can't. I mean, again, all the focus was on Saquon, so I have no idea. For some reason, I keep wanting to say Sauce, but
that maybe it's the green that popped out.
I don't know why. I don't have any real reason to feel that.
I have no idea. Let's
go with Sauce Gardner.
Let's go with Sauce. Jerry and Jones.
Yeah, there we go.
Did you do this because of where you went to school, Andrew? Oh, you didn't know? Okay, good deal. During a November 2024 game, Barkley caught a pass from Jalen Hurts that spun and leapt backwards over Jaguars cornerback Jerry Jones for extra yards, stunning fans. The movement viral for its creativity and athleticism, defining his 2,000-yard title-winning season. So iconic, EA added the hurdle to Madden NFL 25, and Barkley later graced the cover.
The
NFL
Eagles
26.
wouldn't mind adding that to their offense this year.
They'd like to see it starting tonight against the Chargers here in about an hour. So, all right, next one. Which NFL team played 18 years in a college football stadium before moving to their current home?
I know this one.
Yeah, you do, Smokey.
I've been to that stadium.
You've been to that stadium.
Has to be the Arizona Cardinals Sun Devil Stadium.
Yeah, let's go with that. Let's not even mess around.
Yep.
Bingo. Yeah, we were just talking about Sam Leavitt during the break and what that means, but they played on Arizona State's campus from 1988 to 2005. In 2006, they moved into State Farm Stadium in Glendale. By the way, you know what's around, or I don't know, it's probably more now, but you know what's around that stadium? Nothing.
Yeah, it's built up a little bit.
Man, when I went to that Glendale, I was just like, this is a big metal building in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like
we went to the stadium when Baylor was in the Fiesta Bowl.
Yep.
And we were in Tempe, we were in Scottsdale. We're in all these other places during the week, cool places. And then it's like we get to go to the game, and it's just like a spaceship landed.
If you didn't bring supplies, you wouldn't have survived for like
it was like a women's clothing store, like an outlet mall,
and just a lot of parking lot and heat.
I haven't been back there since I guess it would have been the Super Bowl. Used to go there every spring for baseball training camp. I would think that place is now built up all around it.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's get to the poll questions. Which P4 championship surprised you the most? Iowa State ends Ohio State streak number 1 at 45%. Duke shocks UVA and OT was second. I actually don't think that should be all that shocking given how the ACC was this year. Yeah. Georgia mauls Bama, and Tech crushes BYU, 769 votes. Wow. Nice participation.
I voted Indiana, but you picked them, Paul. You got it right.
I did.
And Indiana beating Ohio State 13-10 and win a game that was defensive oriented, which I think that's not what Indiana gets enough credit for.
I was slightly surprised by Georgia just kicking Bama's ass because, I mean, they had played previously and Bama won that game. Mm-hmm. So the way they just kind of manhandled them was slightly – I just thought it was going to be a closer game, but it wasn't like some huge shock. Duke wasn't a huge shock over Virginia in a somebody must win the ACC title matchup. It was almost what it felt like watching at times, but Duke made it interesting, like tried to just hear Virginia, save the ACC. Like we're – and nope, Duke ends up winning. So that was an entertaining game, but Indiana – doing what they did in that Ohio State matchup, that was the game that stood out most to me for sure, and was the most entertaining game, and just it just felt huge, and it wasn't anything but entertaining.
You know what? Since Ohio State lost to Michigan last year, the teams they've played haven't made them pay for mistakes when they get them, and that's very key when you're playing an elite team like Ohio State. Indiana, when you miss a field goal, you don't get a fourth down. They made them pay for it.
Dude, they're just so well coached. Yeah, like they don't make mistakes. Like they all know what the hell they're doing. I know some of it's JMU carryovers, and so he's had guys that have been there for a while, but like Mendoza wasn't. Mendoza just slid in there this past offseason. But like they're just like they've got good basic fundamentals, but they also have good athletes that he's clearly not just gone over the rivals rankings for, that are like just dudes that fit, and it all works. It's beautifully put together. I mean, you watch them and you go like, they damn sure could win a national title. Like it's entirely possible. I don't know about reeling win after win after win, but I mean, shoot, man, they've beaten Oregon, they've beaten Ohio State. It's going to be fun to see what they do.
I miss the days of a team that I like being fundamentally strong, football IQ, and pretty talented.
I will tell you this about Fernando Mendoza, who might win the Heisman Trophy now.
I still don't agree with that. Pavia for Heisman, baby.
I'm all for Pavia. They are very different personalities, though. I had only really seen press conference audio from Fernando Mendoza, which is not really – you can't really glean a lot of a person's personality off of, we just did what we had to do, and, worked out and I love these guys around me and blah, blah, blah. But watching all the interviews and stuff with him, if I did not know he was a quarterback and he was
a
like
dork.
I'd be like, oh, what a nice boy.
Yeah. He's a
nice
guy.
boy.
Yeah.
He got so excited in that post-game interview.
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Is like a dork.
Yeah,
he's
no,
just
he was a little bit of that. And it's kind of refreshing, actually, and kind of innocent.
Well, rather than having like, just like the stench of NIL like wafting off of him and being a 5-star quarterback and like all these like typical kind of things. It's just this dude that's like, gosh, shucks, glad to be here. And
he's risen to the king of the dorks. Congratulations, man.
I mean,
there's going to be little dorky kids forever be like, that's my guy.
Well, I mean, there's going to be people in Indiana wearing his jerseys for decades. And no, it's a really cool story. And they're a very impressive football team, and he's a really impressive quarterback. And if he wins on Saturday night, I'd have no issue with that. I think of the Heisman, just like I feel like you got to be like the player of the year.
Yeah.
And I feel like he was on a really good player on a really good team. Whereas Pavi is like a player, even though he's got a good team around him as well. I don't know if that makes sense. That's just my 2 cents.
I agree with you. And the 2 of the 3 of us don't have a vote, so we'll find out what Smokey's is after next week.
On Monday.
When he's allowed to tell us.
I did vote. I voted after all the conference championship games were done because I think that's what I should do. But I did vote.
Congratulations, Arch Manning.
To me, that it all fell kind of together, but it's never easy.
Yeah.
And they'll have the finalists. They probably are releasing the finalists here at any minute from the Heisman Trust, and then, of course, announce it on Saturday evening. One other quote from Doug McNamee: every rock will be flipped over if there's a revenue opportunity in reference to potentially selling alcohol at McLean Stadium.
We'll see. I mean, he's got.
I know that is
He's got some people that need to not be in leadership positions, but he answered the question about Dave Aranda, how you expect he would, and did say that this has been unacceptable and we have to be better and keep driving the bus forward, I believe was his quote. So, we'll see about alcohol at McLean Stadium. Just like I wonder what we'll see first: legal weed in Texas or alcohol at McLean Stadium,
or gambling.
Yeah,
or gambling.
Well, we'll definitely see gambling in Texas before we see weed. Like it's like the won't cross line over for some of the Texas politicians. But I mean, I don't know how much of that's his call, the alcohol thing. So it sounds good. It's a great day one win the press conference line, and I hope for the sake of Baylor fans and your pocketbooks that that's the direction they go because it's the logical choice. But they're also a unique university.
Yep.
So we'll see what the Southern Baptists have to say about alcohol sales at McLean Stadium.
Okay, last poll question before we go. Besides Notre Dame and BYU, which team would you have most liked to see in the field? Overwhelmingly, Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt. Texas at 19%. Some people who just want to watch the world burn with Duke at 10% and Virginia at 7%.
I was rooting for Virginia to lose because I wanted to see the chaos scenario with no dog in the fight. And then it didn't matter because Miami got in anyways. But I would have been fascinated to have seen the ACC's reaction to being left out.
Yeah.
Like, if we could have just seen what that would have looked like, that would have been incredible. I think Texas could have gone to the playoff and probably won a game or two, depending on the matchup. But I think Vandy would have been my choice on this as well.
Well, I can tell you what the ACC's reaction to being left out of a playoff is. It's like, oh,
rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Oh, oops.
So, by the way, Clark Lee, when he was asked about Vanderbilt not making the playoffs, he was fantastic. He goes, we got to look in the mirror. We got to blame it on us. We could have just won one more game, etc., and played better. So good for him. All right. Thank you, Garrett Ross. Thank you, Brandon Rowe and Andrew Valade and Logan Bagesi. And, of course, all of our great sponsors. We're back again tomorrow at 3. Please hit the like button on your way out. And thank you to reaching 70,000 subscribers as we continue to climb that mountain. For Paul Catalina, for Craig Smoak, thank you for your time. I'm David Smoak. Good night.